There we go. Okay, I think we fixed it. All right. Sorry, everybody. Let's take that from the top. We are here live at the 2023 North American School Scrabble Championship. Things are just getting ready to get started off behind the scenes here. And my name is Will Anderson, and I'm joined by Nitz Chugti. Nitz, I am so excited to be here this year.
Me too. I mean, last year was such a success here at Planet Word in DC, and this is a fantastic location to have everyone and all the students and all the kids getting excited with word games and just excited with all the fantastic exhibits that they have here.
Yeah, the venue is incredible. We are here in Washington, D.C. at the Planet Word Museum. Couldn't imagine a better venue to hold an event like this for kids playing Scrabble. It's been really amazing to see the event come together, and we are really close to getting underway. What can we expect from the players today, Nitz?
Well, nothing less than the best. We saw this last year. We're going to see it again, that everyone will take us by surprise. It doesn't matter if it's a championship division, doesn't matter if it's a high school division. All these kids have been studying their butts off, and they're ready to take us by surprise.
Yeah, to Nitz's point, we have two divisions here. We have our classic championship division taking place between kids from 4th and 8th grades. Those kids will be playing in pairs, so 2 to a team. Communication will be paramount between members of each team in the championship division. But we also have our high school division. Once you've reached that 8th grade cutoff, it's time to move up into high school. Those players will be playing individually, one-on-one games, and that is a division where we're going to start our coverage today in rounds 1 and 2. I'm really excited for it.
And exciting to see how these kids will, move on from the championship division to the high school division and eventually to multi-day championships. We've seen this happen and again with these kids who take over, the mantle and start learning more and more words. This is an exercise in a lot of, mental tenacity and, a lot of diligence. It's great to see these kids coming here and showing us what they've got.
Yeah, and many of the top players in the all ages level of Scrabble, once you graduate high school, move on to college, they're increasingly coming from the ranks of school Scrabble. So it's very likely that we may be seeing a future all ages champion of Scrabble rise to prominence at this tournament here today. So it's very exciting. Some of our top seeds, we have our finalist and our runner-up in the high school division last year, James Donnelly, headlining things in the high school division. And we have a defending champion in the championship division. I think he may have a new partner this year, but Walden Giesentanner, the winner of last year's championship division, is back to try and defend his title. I can't wait to see if he's going to pull it off. It sounds like the announcements are just concluding. We may be about ready to start our first game. And of course, Nitz and I are here. Nitz will be interviewing players afterwards. I'll be interviewing some of the Scrabble luminaries on site in between rounds. And we do have Hannah Lieberman, Jackson Smiley, and Chloe Fatsis all ready to be giving you live game commentary very soon as we get underway. It is a pretty star-studded team, Nitz.
I was just going to say that. Mind jinx. Well, we could be in the championship division ourselves. Wow. That's what I want to know.
We should be paired up in that division. A little bit too old.
You think so? I don't know, man. I could be an 8th grader any day of the week. But yeah, I'm really excited to see how the championship players go about, working with their team members and then finally graduating to a point where you can play on your own. And we have had championship players who are now in the high school division who have gone from having partners to now playing on their own. This is really an exciting time, not just for us, but also for them to see how they can fare on their own.
So I am hearing those 3 words, "you may begin," be uttered by our event directors. So at any minute now, I think we'll be ready to throw down to the commentary team, and they are set and ready to bring you the action from round 1 with what I'm sure is an excellent matchup. We may even be seeing defending champion James Donnelly in round 1, but we'll find out what that matchup is. Certainly plenty of amazing players here to bring to you guys. So I think we're just about ready to throw down. Let's get you guys the beginning of that action here at the 2023 North American School Scrabble Championship.
Hi, folks. Welcome. This is Hannah Lieberman. I'm here with Chloe Fastis. We are both School Scrabble alum. Chloe, you've done pretty well in School Scrabble before, right?
I guess so. A couple top 10 finishes.
Couple top 10. We'll take it. By my standards, that's incredible. We're here to give you some commentary on our high school division for our first game. We'll be switching on and off with the championship games. We'll also get Jackson Smiley in here doing some commentary later in the day. Right now, who are we seeing play, Chloe?
So we're seeing James Donnelly from Massachusetts against Audrey Benford from Maryland. I believe they're both seniors in high school, so they're in the high school division. This should be an exciting matchup. James is the number 1 seed in the high school division he has a 1661 rating in NASPA Scrabble tournaments. So he's a super strong player, and I've seen Audrey because I'm from the same area as her, so I've seen her grow up and play for many years. She's a very, very good player. She won, I believe, the challenge division at a school Scrabble championship that happened some years back, which was one of the divisions they had, and she is also just a super strong player, so it should be a really exciting game.
Absolutely. We are kicking off with quite the matchup here. Both players very experienced, certainly know their words. So we're going to get views of their racks coming up. They've just drawn. Here we go. Okay, so right off the bat, and this is James' rack that we're seeing here. He does have a few bingos in there. Of course, I feel like this is the kind of rack where he would benefit from going second, because it's a lot easier to find 8-letter words in this rack than 7-letter words.
But we definitely do have a couple 7-letter words. Eyebrow, at the very least, can be played. Making the blank tile a Y, which would be really cool to see. It's not the most obvious choice.
Yeah, a lot of times when we're looking for these bingos for these 7-letter words, we're looking for common suffixes, right? Like ER, ING. I think that could be a challenge for a less experienced player, is getting stuck in this idea of those suffixes when there's actually, compound words and other 7-letter words in there. Eyebrow would be a great find.
Yep. And we'll see if he spots it. I would not be surprised.
Isn't Bower a verb?
It could be. Yes,
there we go.
Is.
Bowered.
He also has Embauer. Mm-hmm. So a few different options for James here. I am pretty confident he'll find one of them. I would not be surprised at all. I know him. I saw him earlier this morning during the sort of intro session before this, where they were going over the rules and stuff. He was vigorously doing Zizova studying on his computer, so getting that last bit of studying in before the game starts. So he is no stranger to word study, and it shows.
Oh, it looks like maybe it is Audrey's turn.
Okay, sorry. We had the boards back, the names backwards on the Quackle that we're looking at, but it is Audrey's turn.
Thank you for David Firstman on Twitch for giving us that heads up. There we go. And something we're seeing with these players, which I feel like is unique to perhaps we'll see it more in the high school division. No, it is James' turn. But thanks for the intel. Something we get from these players is that they really do take their time. Looks like he has found Embauer. I see that on his rack now. But, sometimes the compulsion with the lower divisions is they get so excited to see something, they just want to plop it down. And with these high schoolers, they are really taking their time. They got a full 25 minutes for their game. They're really taking their time and making sure they make the right play. I do think he is going for Embauer. We're going to see that in a moment. Yep. Got the B. Oh, he decided to change where he's going to put it. He's got the B on the double letter. That's a key here, is that you want to utilize anything more than a point, get it on that double double letter spot, get a few extra points in there.
Yep, and it's interesting to note that he chose not to put the W on the double letter score, which would actually put Embauer one spot to the left of a huge triple word score. So if Audrey had an S, she could pluralize that potentially and score a ton of points. So James chose to avoid that risk at the sacrifice of 2 points, which I
Right.
think makes total sense.
Completely right
I would
decision.
do the same thing.
And that's where we're seeing this real thinking ahead, right? It's not just about finding the best play. It's about thinking of the next move and the move after that. What are your opponents going to be able to do off of what you played? Again, he's sacrificing 2 points. It's not the highest score. But we are getting... we're getting some strategic play here. So now we see Audrey's rack here.
Yeah, she has a bunch of vowels. 3 A's is not something you want to see on the rack very often. So
It's true.
I think if I was Audrey, I'd be looking for a way to get rid of a few of those. Something like AHA, aha.
Right. She has a few good spots for that. She could put it above the EMB of Embauer, hooking all those 2-letter words. She could put it above the WER. But both of those options do set up a triple letter word going both ways. A little bit risky. I think it's okay. So she went for it above the WER.
Yeah, I like that. It's a very, it's a move I would expect to see. It scores decently.
And gives her some great points.
Yeah. And wow, there isn't crazy bingo available for James here. Actually, a 9-letter word. If anyone in the chat
Whoa.
can spot it. But
Can Carpenter take an OR?
No.
Nope. Okay. Don't go with what I say. Whoa. Okay.
but
We'll give you a hint. This is one of the ones where you're actually looking for a prefix.
but even if he doesn't spot that, he has some good options. The C and the P are good scoring tiles that will work well on top of those, on that triple letter score
Yeah.
that Hannah mentioned.
He could even take
Yeah.
the T and do something like crept, CREPT,
Yep.
with paw and the. A lot of times, the instinct is, oh, these players know so many big words, and certainly we saw that with Embauer, Hencopter. But someone in the chat is recommending Hencopter, which is a hilarious farming idea.
Yeah, so now that
But
we've
again-
given you a few seconds, the 9-letter word that James has available is co-partner through the AR. That's on the board already. So if he found that, that would be an amazing find. I don't think I would find that myself.
Absolutely not. But I wouldn't.
I wouldn't put it past him.
So true. I wouldn't leave it out of the possibilities. But again, something stacking those letters on the triple letter square that's above the AW would also be a great option. I will say that like I was saying, a lot of times these players, they're looking for these long words and they certainly know them, but you can rack up a lot of points just by knowing your 2s and your 3s down pat, which both of these players certainly do. Being able to hook a letter going both ways is suddenly going to get you quite a few points, especially when, again, you get to go both ways with something that's worth more than a point. So crept wouldn't be a terrible option. Cop, anything up there if you wanted to keep that E.
39.
Yeah, and it looks like he plays copter, which is a really nice find. I believe it's a shortening for helicopter.
Hencopter, some may say.
So yeah, very nice play. Very high scoring. Obviously, co-partner would have been an amazing find, but super difficult. And yeah, can't really be too mad about scoring 39 points, I believe.
Absolutely. There's a term that Scrabble players sometimes use, binglet, when you play a word fewer than 7 letters that reaches 50 points. That one almost gets there. Now that play of aha paid off. She has much better letters now. Still kind of vowel heavy, but much more bingo friendly letters.
Yeah, I think knowing Audrey, I think she'll know with this rack. She knows she might be close to a bingo. There is unfortunately nothing available for her at the moment, but I think if she recognizes that, if she gets rid of 1 or 2 of these tiles, she has really decent chances of drawing a bingo. That might be a good idea. I would be looking for a spot to play off the O and E tiles.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the easiest thing to do on this board for a lot of points.
She could play TEA, hooking it with cab and am and te above embower just to rack up some points.
Yeah.
You don't want him to get too sizable a lead. It's always a hard call too if you're going to save your letters because you know they work well together, or if you want to risk going into the bag but potentially drawing some good things.
Yeah, I think if Audrey wants to go for some points and still keep a relatively balanced lead, the play of NE making pawn and THEE would be a nice play. It scores 20 points, keeps A, E, O, S, and T, which are super bingo friendly. You draw a couple consonants and you're often in really good shape. So yeah, I think on this turn, I would be debating between NE and OE, the leave of AENST that she would keep by playing OE underneath Embower.
And she went for EN.
EN, okay, so yeah.
Which is still a good number of points.
Yeah, obviously it would be nice to get some extra points, but can't falter. Yeah, so, and now we see James with some more good scoring tiles here. The Y, yeah, it works really well for
Which,
scoring.
frankly, he doesn't need to bingo. And there he goes, immediately finding some high. Okay, gotcha. He's finding probably some high plays right now. Again, trying to utilize those high scoring tiles, figuring out where they can go. He could stack them under the M and the B. Y is such a great flexible tile in that way. He could do something with yearn above earn and build a word that way. The nice thing about the word copter in terms of defense is that there are no two-letter words that have the letter C in them. So there's nothing he can stack particularly going that way to hit that double word.
Yeah, I think the play of YOW makes total sense here. Keep that really nice A and ST leave. Those letters go well together. You keep an S to hook onto the end of copter, making copters. You can also use your S to make urns or ends. There's a lot of things to do with the S on this board. And it scores 30 points, which is, great. When you're up, you want to keep scoring, and that's exactly what he's doing.
So, Chloe, someone is asking in the chat, best4591, what the challenge rule is. Can you explain quickly what challenges look like in the high school division?
Yeah, so I believe in both the championship division and the high school division, you can challenge words, and it is double challenge. However, there is a stipulation where you can only hold a play for 1 minute before you have to decide whether you want to challenge or not. So you can't leave a player on hold for like 2, 3, 4 minutes deliberating, like in adult Scrabble tournaments. I think that's mostly just to, get things going and
absolutely,
keep the plays coming.
So it looks like he did play that YOW. Oh, such an unfortunate poll.
Yeah.
There were two ways this could go. She could draw those consonants that she needed, and that was part of my reasoning for saying OE or TEA, is to get rid of two vowels just in case this happens. She's certainly going to have to get rid of some of those O's. And there aren't too many great spots for it.
Honestly, I think all the best moves might actually be exchanging here. It's never something you want to do to score 0 points, but just exchanging O, keeping the really great leave of A, E, S, and T would, help her out. And since there's no option to get rid of the O's on this board, that would really do much for her. I would not blame Audrey for choosing to exchange here.
Absolutely. Again, it's about this thinking long-term that we need to see here.
Mm-hmm. Audrey does have another interesting option available of caboose she could play. From the C of copter and the BO of embower, she could use her A, O, S, and E to make caboose. If she does want to score points, it's a pretty tough find. I don't think I would find that we're
really
using two different plays. Well, I guess technically 3 different plays that are on the board. To make a word is not always the easiest thing to spot.
And I can see a bit of hesitation, too, of using some of her better tiles. But again, I do think exchanging is going to be the best option here. Again, it's about these players thinking long term.
Okay,
Okay.
so Audrey plays OE, which definitely makes sense when you have those vowels. You don't want to exchange, so you sort of try to find a way to get rid of them. However, it does set up a really big scoring spot for
Right.
James. OWE takes a D at the back. You can play Ode or O's, and make words going both ways to
And
score a bunch of
also,
points.
if he happened to have bingo letters, it's this beautiful, what we call a double lane, where he could hit both double words. That means his play is now times 4, plus the 50 points, plus the points from Ode being doubled. So
Yeah, and luckily for Audrey, he does not draw a bingo that plays there. He does have some plays that score good points. He could go the fishing route of playing just the D and A, keeping the really synergistic stain leave, Stain. He could go, that would be for 22 points.
he could do and,
yeah,
right, with Boone.
and that would score some more points.
It would also set up a kind of nice
Yeah.
lane.
Yeah, it would set up some scores back for Audrey. If you look at the board, you can see AND fits making Boone and Ode, but below Boone there would be a double letter score where you could put an S going both ways for sort of a similar deal with this O turn that could help James out.
Absolutely. The other thing is the general rule of thumb is that when you're up in points, you want to shut the board down. When you're down in points, you want to open the board up. But it's so early in the game to be thinking that way that I don't know that he has to be so cautious. And he did go with that AND. I think that was the right move. Oh, poor Audrey.
Oh no, more vowels. This is not going great for her in the drawing department.
It's going to get to a certain point where she's going to have to decide
to exchange.
Yeah,
and I think here exchanging might even be a little clearer, just because all of her other plays use her S. Any play that's going to score any points, almost all of them will use the S.
Right.
And
she could do something like auto off of AR, but at that point, it's 10 points. I would say might as well exchange because she's going to need more than these little 10-point increments to catch up. She's going to need some sort of bingo or really big play. So again, I do think exchanging might be the best option. She could exchange OOU, leave herself with the AITS. Someone in the chat is saying that you should always run up the score. I don't know if I agree with that. I do think at a certain point, running up the score, does it really count as running up if it's like 8 points, 10 points, opening up the board and not leaving you with terribly much?
I think that person might have been making a joke.
Okay, good. I don't know the ins and outs of Twitch.
But yeah, I think, the general principle is, when you're at such a big deficit, you're going to need a big play to get back into it. And something like auto for 10 is not really what Audrey will be looking to do here. So we'll see what she decides.
Some very active opinions happening in the Twitch chat here. Again, if you want to follow along, you want to send us questions, we are happy to answer those. It looks like she's putting something down for us. And she did go with auto. Not a terrible option because she did get rid of a lot of those letters she would want to get rid of. Here's hoping.
But James picks up a bingo rack, a high probability rack. He has the word agisted, AGISTED, which will fit on this board, making autos.
And again, it's not necessarily a word you would particularly use in everyday life, but it is one where if he has studied his common bingos, he certainly knows that word, and I think we're probably going to see that. Yeah,
I know James has definitely studied those high probability words, so I would not be surprised if he finds this. Things are going well for James here.
Yeah, he's drawing well, but he's also using those letters incredibly well. I think the only spot would be with autos.
Yeah, the other bingo available is Godishas through the O of auto. It just scores 3 less points. There's no real reason to do that. Over adjusted, I think maybe there's definitely some defensive merit if you want to get into it. But I think I would probably take the points here with adjusted.
I do think, too, that if he, for some reason, doesn't find it, he has a few good plays that he can still rack up some points and leave himself with incredible bingo leaves. But I do think, knowing James, I think it's likely he's going to find it just in.
Yeah, at least one of them should be coming down. He might just be deliberating between which one of the two is better. Because like I was saying about Godishas, it's just it would start on the fourth row of the board instead of the second row. It'll take up more of the space in the bottom right that he'll be looking to sort of use up as he cements his lead. And it looks like he is going with Godishas, so it could be for this reason. It'll make it harder for Audrey to fit a bingo on this board after that comes down.
Absolutely.
Versus after adjusted, it's 2 spots higher. It's easier to make parallel 2-letter words on either side of it and put a bingo down next to it.
So her letters are, they're getting a bit more balanced. She is just plagued with these vowels. I do feel for Audrey.
Yeah, it's so hard when you just have no scoring options.
Yeah.
Every play that you see scores like 10 points. And you're like, what do I do?
I could honestly see her just playing off her 2 A's and trying to rack up a few points, setting herself up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, not quite for a bingo lane. But again, this is, no fault of Audrey's. It's always hard to decide if you're going to trade or try and rack up a few points. Probably in retrospect, which of course we have the benefit of now, it would have made sense for her to trade a bit earlier.
Yeah.
She wasted a few turns trying to get rid of these letters.
Yeah, and there are some reasonable plays here. I don't think exchanging is the call on this turn. And so just a way to get rid of a few of those vowels and maybe open up some more space on this board to get a bingo down, because as we were talking about, Godishas did inhibit a lot of the available bingo space, since it'll be harder to fit a word on either side of Godishas to go downward.
Exactly.
So I think something like ORA, aura, on the right side of Godishas might make some sense. You can make DO, ER, and TA. It's a little risky because you do open up another one of those triple letter scores going 2 ways that we talked about earlier. But when you're down so much, you need to hope you have to make all of these options available to yourself to be able to come back.
Opening up for your opponent also means opening up for you. Also, DO, in terms of like power tiles, it doesn't take
too many.
No. I think the biggest risk would be ending in a word ending in H.
Yeah, definitely.
But it is a bit safer than, say, playing like TAO and leaving a triple lane open.
Yeah. So we'll see what she decides to do. It's really hard when you're down by almost 200 and you have to figure out some way to make this big comeback. And, there is time. It's still very early on in this game. But it's sometimes just hard to get yourself in the mindset of thinking of plays that might not, in a typical situation, stand out to you because you don't usually want to open up lucrative bingo spots if it's like a close game or if you're up. But when you're down so much, you do need to
take those risks.
So you need to look at those space that's available on the board and see what you can make happen.
She could also do something like NAOI off of the A and the S of Godishas.
Yeah.
Just to try and get rid of more vowels. I always feel like it's just the tile gods being fickle. As soon as you get rid of most of your vowels, you're going to get.
Yeah, and so she does play parallel to Godishas. However, did she play ARO?
Let's see if we can get this.
Yeah, so she did play ARO, which unfortunately is not a word in this dictionary yet. I believe it actually might be added in the next update, but that has not gone into effect yet. So I hope she didn't see that in the dictionary that all the players were provided and
that would be
play
unfortunate. Also because ORA, I'm sure she knows that word.
Yeah.
Maybe she was trying to draw a challenge. And again, let's explain how these challenges work. So James held the clock, then he decided he was going to challenge, flipped over his tiles. They're going up to that challenge board to see if it is valid. We're going to come back and see that it is a row as opposed to a column. Some real jokesters in the Twitch chat here. But, I can totally see making that mistake. It's hard when these new words are added and when words are taken away to really...
to know what's good and what's not.
Right,
Yeah, it's hard to keep it all
something you've known
straight.
all along. But that's a very, very painful loss of a turn for her. She needed that turn so badly. So now we're going back to James and
he drew the Z, which will be big, and he actually has a huge spot to play that. We were talking about the boon spot earlier, boon making boons. He can play zigs,
Absolutely.
hitting the Z on that double letter score in addition to hitting the double word score.
Right. Now, it does open up the Z in the triple lane, but I do think it's
it's
many
65
points. It's got to be worth it.
Yeah, a play with the Z in the triple lane will score maybe 30, 40 points. You're still gaining a bunch of points
And
from
he
that.
does, in fact, go for it. So,
Yeah.
now the good news is, hopefully, Audrey can see that she has a chance to get a few points.
Yeah.
That's going to be really helpful. She could play, let's see what the best options are
Yeah,
here.
I would probably, if you want to score points, you can play Zona. Get rid of one of those A's.
I think that would be the best option.
There's another interesting option of AZON. I think that would set up the S.
Right, to say,
but
but
I don't think it's
risky.
worth that point sacrifice. It's risky.
There's still another S and another blank out there. I would certainly not take that risk. I think Zona is a great play. Hopefully she knows that word. I'm sure she does. And
if not, she also can play something like ZORI.
Right.
Zins, ZINS would work.
The benefit of Zona is it also happens to be the letters she wants to get rid of.
Yeah.
Her leave would be AIRS, which is an incredible lead. Again, don't know if this person is joking with us. Said no one on the chat said she needs to take risk to come back. It is certainly an option. It's like the kind of thing I would do if I were playing against the computer and the game were lower stakes. But the risk here is that, she would be starting off the tournament with a real spread deficit.
Yeah, well, luckily for her, there is a spread cap in, I think, the whole tournament, but in the first round, it is the lowest. I don't know exactly what it is in this tournament, maybe 100 points. So that means that if you win by anything more than 100 points, it doesn't matter. Your spread, the point difference for that game will be recorded as 100 points. And this prevents,
that is helpful,
because sometimes in the earlier rounds in the tournament you have more mismatches, more imbalanced levels of play because the top seeds get paired against the bottom seeds often. So that can help prevent it's just some really discouraging results earlier
It also
on.
just kind of keeps hope alive. Exactly, the discouraging results. It allows you to, kind of dust yourself off, take a little pity party, and then think, hey, I'm totally still in this, especially because the tournament doesn't have as many games as you might get in like a multi-day adult Scrabble tournament where there's more chance for a rebound, kind of allows that to happen. So we're going to let's look and see if we can get a bit of her thought process here.
So yeah, it looks like she has a row set up again. I hope she knows that aura is a word. I wonder where she's thinking. Oh, maybe she's thinking of playing Taro, Taro, which is a good idea. Getting rid of those same letters. It just would be, unfortunately, a huge point sacrifice from that Zona play we talked about earlier.
Now, one benefit of her having drawn all these vowels for so long is that James is finally dealing with having a lot of consonants. Now, would I rather have more vowels or more consonants at this time? I think the consonants are really nice. He has high-scoring stuff. He's got 2 power tiles on there. I don't know if you count K as a power tile. I do. So she is going for Taro. Oh, I wish she had gone for a Z play. But
yeah, it's sometimes hard to keep all of those short Z words.
Absolutely.
Keep them straight. It's hard to know what's a word, and especially it's also hard as a player once you've just lost a challenge to be confident enough in playing a word that you're not 100% sure of. So I bet that Audrey knew Taro was for sure a word.
Absolutely.
And was like, I don't want to risk it. And James does have a good spot to get rid of a bunch of these consonants, and I think it looks like
he's
probably
going to be playing
plank. He could also do flank. I don't know if there's a reason he's thinking of keeping the F.
Maybe to hook under zigs with the F going that way, although that doesn't seem entirely worth it to me. He's
playing plank there.
Okay, that makes much more sense.
Yeah. Nice find. Yeah, I think I probably would do flank unless there's a spot for fix or fax. That would be better. But I think just the 3 extra points from he's plank. Oh, my bad. Okay.
He could also play. He leaves the F2 to play fix on another turn under Taro, hooking that X both ways.
Okay, yeah. Flink is not a word. That's okay. For some reason, I was reading that as zags.
Something I think is really helpful too is that he knows he can't use that Z at the moment. He knows it's a big risk to leave it for Audrey, and now he's all but blocked that chance. She would need a word with some O's, so because O is the only letter that goes in front of K. It's true, and we're going to see what she does now. She certainly wants to get rid of one of the doubles, right? The A, the I.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm curious what she does here. She might be looking to hook with Plink with her S, see if she can get anything going that way. I don't think there are terribly many options there, but let's check that Quackle and see what her best choices are.
Yeah, so if she wants to hook Plink, she has the strange four-letter word ASCI. Not an easy one to know if you don't know the four-letter words. At least I don't think that's a common word.
No, I certainly didn't think of it. I would think a great option would be hooking. Now, it does leave her with two eyes, which is yucky, but she needs points at this point. I would hook both of my A's with that N of Plink, play ANA, AGA, and ZA. That would get you a good number, I think 25 points.
Yeah, very reasonable option. Yeah, it's just hard when you're at this deficit and you have these racks that feel like they might be close to a bingo, but you're just not really getting that.
And also, it's hard not to get discouraged at a certain point. Although the game is actually very young. There are plenty of tiles left in the bag. But it's hard not to get discouraged when you see that point deficit. Absolutely. All right, so looks like she's putting something down. Let's see what she does up here.
So she played acai. It's a nice play.
Definitely
it gets rid of those letters. Unfortunately, it does open up a pretty big scoring spot that James will be able to take advantage of with all his high-scoring consonants. But sometimes you do have to take those risks like we were talking about.
Right. I think it would have been beneficial to take those risks a bit earlier, but good on Audrey for, not giving up and just continually playing little
especially
words.
I like that she had the idea to open up a triple. So what we're talking about is when there's a letter in a lane where there's two triple word scores you could hit. Those plays score a ton of points, and when you're down by so much, you often do need to get a triple in order to come back into the game. So even though it's unlikely most of the time, and a player like James will often know to block those spots, sometimes, like we were saying, you just got to take those risks. I think for James, what he has set up right now is GAFF, G-A-F-F. Looks like a great play. Holds on to the X again, which is good because it's a great scoring tile, and he has some good spots for that on the board. Scores a bunch of points. You can't complain when you're up, and you just get to keep scoring. It is what you want to do.
I do think that was a great option. He also had FAUX, right?
He did have FAUX. Yeah, it's interesting. That would have scored a bunch more points.
On the other hand,
yeah. Right. It's nice to keep those scoring options for next turn, and he does have a spot for the X where Taro is, and Godicious he can put AX, and he kept Mix there. So he did keep guaranteed scoring for 2 turns in a row, so I don't fault him at all.
I don't fault him either, and I do think he knows he has high scoring tiles on his rack. There's no harm in getting rid of more of them in that last turn. One thing that Audrey has to contend with right now is she has these high probability bingo letters. Unfortunately, if you can't use those to bingo to make those 7-letter words that get you those 50 extra points,
there's not a whole lot you can do.
They're not terribly worthwhile. Even just having F's and G's for James was able to score him huge points. The most she's gotten in a long while has been the C from acai, which is that's very tough to deal with.
Yeah, and it's hard here. There's not even really any great fishing options. Not really good scoring options. She's kind of just in a tough spot.
Yeah, I think her best bet is just to get rid of maybe one of those L's.
Yeah, I would try to avoid inhibiting the open space on the board. There's not a ton of bingo lanes at this point, but that Plink's hook would be useful for her, so not playing anything in that area. And then the O and the R of Taro are also going to be useful for making 8-letter words. So if there's a way that she can make a play that either, and also as in addition to not closing any open lanes, but also maybe opens up something else for her, like an S hook at the end of a word. Would be good. So something like nil, Nill, or even just ILL, next to Godisha's would make sense to me.
I think
Making
that would
NA
be a
and
great
IS.
option.
She would set up her S.
Especially because we do still have another blank and another S out. And so if James takes that Plink spot, that leaves her with one fewer option.
Right.
She'd probably have to make an 8. So it does look like she is going to.
So she's gonna fish her L. Makes sense. I wonder how many bingos that would hit with a one tile draw. It's always good to go through the alphabet and see. So she actually does draw a bingo.
We'll see if she can find it, but pretty common bingo of urinals.
Not sure if it fits anywhere, unfortunately. But we'll see what happens.
That would be so unfortunate too. We call them stranded bingos.
Homeless
bingos, right? Housing vulnerable bingos. Where they, looks like she's trying to find a different word using a prefix of UN.
But yeah, it looks like James is gonna play Mux for a bunch of points.
Now, he probably could have gotten more points from playing Mix and Lax, but here's what's so beautiful about Mux is he shuts down any chance of her, stacking along.
Yeah, or
Godisha's.
even bingoing through that S.
Absolutely.
Of Godisha's is no small threat. So yeah, Audrey, let's see if she can find... Oh, and she looks like she might have challenged this play. Mux is a word.
It is a word. Mox is not a word, and I've made that mistake before. I have.
So unfortunately for Audrey, it looks like she might be missing this turn again. But it could work out in her favor if James eventually gives her a spot to play urinals or insular.
Right, maybe she's being incredibly strategic and using reverse psychology to get him to open up a bingo spot for her. If I were Audrey and I weren't sure if Mux was a word, I completely understand challenging and being like, I needed that spot. On the other hand, it's not like this was the only place he could play his X. So it's a little...
sometimes you give people the benefit of the doubt. Ooh, actually, Audrey does have a pretty cool play available. A disconnected 9-letter word through the F and O that are open. Friulanos. But
Friulanos.
I don't think I would find that. So.
I mean, what idiot doesn't see Friulanos? No, I honestly don't even know
But
what it
James
means.
actually drew his own bingo through that O that he has set up biometry.
Wow, and he sees it too, I believe.
He also has Timbery available.
I do not want to be matched up against James anytime soon.
No, he is a great player.
Yeah, he's an incredible player, and he's, it's easier to find bingos when you have these what are called common bingo letters, right? TISANERL, all those 1-point letters. When you have the B, the Y, the M.
Yeah, these are not these super high probability bingos that we were talking about. So, and for that to pop out at him instantly is super impressive. Timbery would score some more points, so I wonder if he'll keep looking and shuffling his tiles to find that. But either way, it looks like James is probably going to score 500 points this game, which is pretty awesome.
What a start to the day. It's not even noon, and he's scoring 500 points. Very impressive. I do feel for Audrey. He didn't open up a spot for her, and he also took a bingo lane, which is a bit demoralizing, I would think.
Yeah, it's tough, but I have faith in Audrey to come up with some more ideas.
Absolutely. It looks like she may be holding. She is going to challenge.
Okay.
I have to say, for Audrey, at this point, totally makes sense to challenge. If you're not sure of the word, and you're down by this much, you just can't afford for him to get those extra points.
It's hard. Personally, for me, I have a really hard time bringing the confidence in myself to challenge after I've already lost one. So I really respect that she is still challenging after losing challenges, because for me, that is such a confidence sucker.
I think she does know at this point that it's pretty unlikely she's going to come back. She'd have to score more points now than most people score in a whole game. So I do think it is probably worth it for her to take those risks, to say, hey, I do know my words. I want to make sure everything on this board is, you're not getting away with anything per se. Not that I think James would ever intentionally phony on his opponent. I do hope we get to see Audrey play again, because I think she has a lot more to offer than what we're getting to see, just because she's had such unfortunate draws on this game.
Yeah. And James drew pretty well after that bingo, getting the Q and
Wonderful
U
letters.
together. He has a whole bunch of options that he'll be considering here.
Absolutely. Now for Audrey, the question is she going to, what is she going to dump from her rack in the hopes of bingoing?
Right. Yeah.
She also needs to be careful because there are fewer and fewer options for bingoing coming up. And she is going to have to keep those open. James is going to have, each turn is another opportunity now to shut down the board. We were talking about earlier how he wasn't really at the point where he needed to think defensively of shutting things down. Now he's racked up enough points.
Yeah, he doesn't want Audrey bingoing.
Exactly. He can just shut down that board.
Yeah, and something like ROQUE to the E of embower makes sense to me.
She could play through the R,
She
but
could.
it blocks
the E, it scores well, keeps, bingo friendly tiles, which doesn't hurt even when you're up, it's always nice to keep scoring.
Something I do feel for Audrey is, when she was left with these options of trading or just playing off 2 letters for 10, 15 points.
So yeah, it looks
Okay,
like he
does
goes
play
with Roke. Roke.
I'm going to go
Probably
with
Roke. Makes sense. Yeah, and this does not give anything bingo. No, it gives no bingos back to Audrey.
I don't know if we can see how many tiles are left, but
yeah, that might be helpful. Or we can see here. There's 23 unseen tiles.
Okay, so I think if she were to play something like Luna with AR, just so that one, the triple lane isn't something that James can take. I think he's now proven himself to be someone who really seizes those opportunities. But 2, her leave wouldn't be terrible, and she could, potentially do an 8-letter word starting with an L. Another option would just be to open up the board. Fortunately, she still does have that plink hook of putting the S on the bottom.
I would definitely hold on to the S here.
Absolutely.
Super useful. Even though, there's not a way to end a word in an S on this board, but yeah, even just having the option to start it, I believe it's the most common letter to start a bingo. So,
it's certainly a very valuable letter, which is why we see these players being so cautious about using it. We've seen there are a lot of plays that could score her more points than she was getting using an S, but she has been very cautious about that, which I think is the right move.
Yeah.
I do think Audrey has been making perfectly reasonable decisions. I don't think anything she's been playing has been
it's sometimes
a
just
big
so
mistake.
Tough.
But she just got cursed with those vowels. And what I was saying earlier is that when she's choosing to play those little 2-letter words, she was often using her only E. Mm-hmm. And E's are really, really helpful for those bingos.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Audrey, I've seen her play for many years, and I know she's so capable of bingoing. It just sucks that she keeps getting these draws that aren't quite there, and it's such a hard decision when you don't have an obvious play, either a play that scores really well or a play that is a bingo. You're like, what do I do? And when you don't have many good scoring options,
Absolutely.
You're just kind of stuck in this cycle of fishing and trying to get maybe 10, 15 points, but it's just hasn't worked out for her this game.
An absolutely tough call. And again, I don't think we can look back at one point and say that's where she made her big mistake.
No, yeah.
Maybe a few of the challenges certainly set her back, but
it's hard to follow her if you don't know a word. And also, maybe she doesn't know James's game.
Absolutely.
She might not know that James is someone who knows a ton of words. So she plays LA.
Maybe she didn't know any 4-letter or 5-letter words that could
reasonable.
Hook to Roke.
Would have been nice to get rid of the U just because it's really not a tile that is conducive to bingoing.
Especially now that the Q is gone.
But she actually did draw a nice bingo, I think. Or no, sorry, I missed. Oh yeah, she did. Let's see if she finds it. But for now, it is James's turn, and knowing James, I wouldn't be surprised if he chooses to make some even more board closing plays.
Absolutely. He could do something off of Roke to rack up those points. He could play something like Find. It does set up a V lane, but that's
not the biggest concern.
Exactly, and it certainly racks up some points for him. I think we're going to see a 600-point game from James, which is incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
Someone has pointed out what that bingo that she has is in the chat. Nourish, Nourish, but unfortunately, I don't think there is a spot for it unless. Oh,
No,
what
it's,
is down
it's an
here?
N. It's
Oh, it's
not
an
an R. I thought the same.
We have a bit of a blurry screen here, so we're getting excited about these possibilities.
Yeah, it looks like
I think
James
he
is
is going to
considering.
play
He was
Vines.
thinking of playing Device through the C of acai,
Which is also a
it's
great
a nice option.
option.
I think he might have been a bit concerned about that because it did open up a lane both on top and underneath.
Oh,
He looks
but
like
he
he's
is going for it.
You know, when you're up so much, sometimes you just take the the top equity play,
Right.
is what we say.
So
And-
unfortunate, though, that she can't utilize that
Yeah.
with the bingo. Now she can put her H up there. She finally has a letter
That
worth
can
more
score.
than a point.
Yeah.
I really hope we get to see Audrey again, and even if we don't, I'm confident that she's going to get some wins in her belt.
Totally. Yeah. Oh, and there comes the other S for James.
Oh, and
so-
if he picks the blank now, it's just no. But he does have great letters.
And, yeah, but for Audrey,
Okay, so
look,
she's hooking that H both ways.
Very nice. So she's getting those points. HI makes total sense. Yeah, I'm glad she's getting some points from that. It's always nice when you get that triple letter score going two ways, like we've talked about so many
Now-
times this game.
I do think, even if he doesn't see a bingo in here, is Vendees valid? Vendees?
Yeah, I believe it is.
I don't know if there's there is a spot for that. He can
Yep,
play it under device.
Yeah,
If
it looks like he
he's
sees
found
it. Of
oh,
course
wow, we
he
are
does.
definitely going to see
So
a
we're
600
getting
point.
that is amazing.
No, we have to say James has been getting incredible tiles, but he's also been playing them
so well.
incredibly
Yeah,
well.
no, he's not put a foot wrong this whole game.
Absolutely
I mean,
no missteps here, and
the only thing I can think of is that co-parent turn, and 9-letter word. You can't fault
you
anyone for
absolutely
that.
can't. And you know what? He got nearly 40 points, and
Yeah.
then was able to come back with more great
Yeah,
plays. So absolutely no judgment here. The other nice thing for James, he can play this even if he's not sure it's valid. He's not risking the game here.
No,
He's
yeah.
got the game in the bag.
Though he might be worried about Audrey challenging, because we do know she is confident challenging.
It's true, but I guess
But
my
when
point
you're up,
is,
yeah.
at this point, the challenge wouldn't matter
Yeah.
terribly much to him. Now, Audrey has some great letters. I, again, don't know if she's going to be able...
Yeah, to play either of her bingos.
Right. Unless he opens something up, which is possible, but I do think he's going to go for Vendees. There he goes.
Yeah, that is too bad. Yeah, both of Audrey's bingos, somewhat obscure words that you might know more from studying than from life, but nitrous, I guess.
Right. Nitrous oxide.
We know that word. And turions is the other one. Turions.
That one I wouldn't have. I don't know if I even would have seen. No place for either of those.
So yeah, she really, that's why, I think this kind of goes to show why it's so important to have a lane on the board where you can put an S to end a word. A lot of these things, she's been drawing the S with Nourish, has been near the end,
Right.
or urinals, and now nitrous and turions. So it just goes
What's
to
so
show,
hard
yeah.
too is that not only has James been scoring amazingly well with mux and biometry, but he's also shutting down those lanes.
Yeah, because now if you look at the device spot we were talking about earlier, on top of it, the only letter that goes in front of DE is an O. It's a lot better from James's perspective to have only an O available to play there than an E, which really works a lot better at the end of words.
And frankly, a lot of other vowels, when there's no E after, you could play an I or an A or an O as well.
Oh, and it looks like Audrey has challenge.
Again, I completely understand the impulse to challenge here.
Yeah, I agree. You're down. You don't want, some player who might have a higher rating than you to take advantage of you in that way by
Right.
phoning. But we know
Which,
James
knowing James,
is,
he wouldn't do.
Yeah, and James is playing valid words.
But certainly James is at the point where, she thinks perhaps that Zion is a word. Or was she...
Or,
Did she challenge him, or did she put that down? Let's see.
I think. Did she play? Oh, she played Zion.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, didn't even see that.
We didn't see that here, but it looks like he actually challenged her. Zion, that's a word that I always want to be valid, and it is unfortunately not. Now he has the blank and the J. Certainly if you're looking at who's gotten what power tiles in this game, James blew Audrey out of the water. The tile gods, I don't know if she forgot to make her sacrifice this morning, but the tile gods have not been kind to her. Now we'll see if he can somehow get that J on the triple, which I'm sure he has some options here. Unfortunately, I do think those options would all have to use his blank, so we'll have to see if it's worth it for him.
Right. Yeah, what could he do? He also has, yeah, let's see, Jivey or Jive through the V of Vendees that he just played. Those score 42 points.
Absolutely. I
The
wonder
only thing
too-
is knowing
Oh,
Audrey's.
here he
Okay,
goes.
so he's going for it pretty quickly. I was gonna say knowing Audrey has that ION. It's kind of likely she has something like joint or joins.
Or
but at this
junior.
point, those aren't even
Ooh,
gonna
doesn't
score
get
as
it.
much as Jive. Well, I guess we should see what the blank was if possible.
It was an E.
It was an E.
I also would wonder
Yeah,
what
so
tiles are
she
to
is gonna play Joust. Nice
Okay.
play. Get rid of that U.
I could see the merit in playing joint instead
yeah.
to keep your S, knowing
But at
there are no
this
other S's,
point,
but
just getting those
get
points
those
down
points
will feel
down.
good.
Go, Audrey. Are we down?
I
tiles,
think
or
the
just- just
bag
play
is
quickly? The bag
empty.
is empty. Wow, he might get a 7. He might join the 700 club.
Let's see. Can
He has to get
Let's
23
look at it.
points, and if he goes out, he'll get 6 from her. So you double the points left on your opponent's rack. So he has to get 17 points.
Which
Oh.
I'm not seeing a great option for
either.
that with this lint on his rack. But we'll see what he comes up
Gosh,
with.
he's so close though.
Yeah, he looks like he might be playing Liney. Yeah, Liney. So 14 points, and if Audrey doesn't see a spot to go out, he actually still might be able to
He
get
still
enough
might.
points
He would just have to
hit
get
700.
Honestly, 2 points.
Yeah, and we've been talking about yeah, I mean, it's just amazing to score 700 points or even close to 700 points in a game. It's just super awesome. Oh, Audrey might be
Maybe she thinks there's a Y in there. I
Okay,
saw her
so-
do a little shrug, which was pretty adorable.
So can he get how many points do we say? 14. So he needs 3 points with the T to get the 700 now. So it looks like it's gonna happen for him.
Absolutely.
So that is amazing. A 700-point game. I've never had a 700-point game. I don't know about you, Hannah.
I haven't. I absolutely haven't. I did get very close once in school Scrabble playing with my brother. I got to like 660, but it turns out 3 of our bingos were phonies. We didn't know.
Wow. So 700
They were
game and the
creative
first game on
players.
stream. What? That is amazing.
That's a very elite club in
Yeah.
Scrabble, the 700 Club.
Yeah, and someone in chat points out Audrey's smiling. She knows James played really well here, and
I think she also can hang her hat on the fact that she didn't. We certainly didn't see her make too many strategic mistakes. The challenges,
you know,
although
it's
at that
tough.
point in the game, I get why she did it. So what does he need to score here? He's
needs
getting
to
6.
score
He needs to
3
score
points.
3 points with the T.
And I see a spot. He plays
oh,
Fet. Yeah,
perfect.
Fet works.
That'll definitely
That's 8
get it.
points.
What was your spot? Latin.
Yeah, it's only
Right.
7 though, so 8 points is better than 7. He's gonna get that 700. That must be a great
Wow,
feeling.
what an
First game of the
incredible first
2023
game.
North American School Scrabble Championship being a 700 one. That is nothing to sneeze at.
I mean, that is. I'm happy that there's that spread cap. For Audrey, I agree. Someone in the chat says, I guess that's all you can do in this situation. Just smile and be happy for your opponent. Audrey has been a terrific sport, which is just as, if not more important here in the game. And we see her smiling. I can't wait to see her play more. But for James, wow, that is a very, very
so impressive.
small club of people.
Such a well-played game. James is clearly an incredible player who has put tons of work into know Vendees, Embauer, biometry. None of these are normal words.
Right.
Like that are easy to spot. Especially Embauer with a blank is a pretty cool find.
Absolutely a cool find. I also think that it was helpful for him to know how to shut down the board. It just so happened that the ways that Audrey needed to open it up, he happened to have the tiles at that time to work it out. I think great tiles are not just about the power tiles, the X, the J, the Z, the Q, but having the GFF to play gaff.
Yeah, it's sometimes just about the timing of when your opponent makes a certain move, and especially it's when you're in these situations of being down a lot and you want to do these, you have to take these risks of opening spots like Acai did, but you know that most of the time you're just going to get burned for it.
Right.
So
But
it's
she
like
had to do it.
Sometimes you just got to do those
Wow,
things.
I think we see James maybe taking a picture of the board or of
Don't
the score.
blame. Oh no, they're doing so in this tournament. They're doing online
Oh,
score
great.
result.
So high tech we are.
I know. For the high school division, they're doing online score submission to, minimize paper use, I guess.
That's great.
And make things a bit easier.
And also it can help minimize risk as well of mistakes on
Right.
those if you have to check it on
Yeah,
the phone.
so looks like that's
But
what
if
they're
I were
doing
him, I
now.
would take a picture of the score. Fortunately, he has this game forever saved on the Twitch.
Yes.
But what an incredible high energy start to this tournament. I mean, we couldn't have asked for a more dramatic score here. Stick with us, folks, because we're going to be bringing you commentary on all these games. So fascinating to me.
I believe we're doing post-match interviews as well. So
Absolutely.
sometime soon we might be getting that, which should be nice to hear from James here.
There we go. I do also love, next we're going to be watching the championship division, which are the paired up younger kids.
Oh, actually, I think next round is still high school.
Oh, we're going to do high school again.
2 high school to start, I believe.
Clearly,
yeah.
I'm just testing Chloe. I'm making sure that she knows what's happening, and she does, so everyone relax. It's great. But when we do eventually get, to the championship rounds, you get this whole other psychological aspect of playing with a partner. Maybe some of those things that Audrey challenged in this game, her opponent would have said, no, I happen to know that's a word. So it is interesting to watch. James is certainly someone to watch in this tournament. I think we're going to get we might be seeing him again, maybe in the finals.
I am sure this is not the last we see of James.
Right,
such a strong player. He's definitely going to be up there in contention.
But he's not the only strong player. He certainly has competition in this tournament. So, and of course, even the best player can be foiled by
you never
unlucky
know.
tiles.
Yeah.
So hopefully he hasn't used up all his luck today.
So if there's tiles in the bag, every side.
Okay. Awesome. Once again, I'm Hannah Lieberman. I'm here with Chloe Fatsis, and we just watched an absolutely incredible game here at the North American School Scrabble Championships. We were watching the high school division. We watched James Donnelly score over 700 points. Chloe, try to contextualize for us how unique it is to score that much.
It is very rare. There is something called the 700 Club.
700 Club, yes.
They're cutting away. Oh.
Okay, 700 Club is an amazing feat. Very few players have made it
it's
there.
Such a small list that your name is on that list and people have,
I think
it's listed.
You need to first off be an excellent player, which James has clearly proven himself to be, but you also need to have those tile gods smile down on you. The stars need to align for that to happen. And he did have that today, which is amazing. Thank you all for joining us. We love seeing you. In the Twitch stream, said no one asked, is there attorney fave? James is certainly an incredible player, but there are a lot of incredible players in this high school division, some that we haven't seen for a while, so we don't know how much studying they've been doing or not doing.
People can only have gotten better, I think, is the answer.
You say that, but here I am.
But yeah, I think James Donnelly's certainly up there. He's the #1 seed, the highest rated. We also have Cherish Ambi Okolo. She's no stranger to School Scrabble.
Right.
And it also has a NASPA official rating. Who else?
NASPA being the North American Scrabble Players Association, those adult tournaments.
And we have, let's think, Emmett Bersowski. I know he's from DC where this tournament is, so I know him somewhat well. He also competes in those adult NASPA tournaments.
Absolutely. And let's talk a little bit about where we are. We're at the Planet Word Museum here in DC. I think this is the coolest museum ever.
It's pretty awesome.
I'm nerding out over here.
Yeah.
It's got exhibits on etymology and linguistics and different world languages and like fun challenges. We're so grateful to Planet Word that we get to be here. It's such a cool venue.
Yeah, it's so nice here. Just the perfect venue for a Scrabble tournament. I mean, what more could you want? A museum all about words for a Scrabble
tournament. Also learned
tournament.
last year they do weddings. I'm very much like... Take notes, Mateus. That's my boyfriend. No, this place is gorgeous, and we're so lucky to be here. In just a few moments, once they've had a moment to kind of digest the game, we are going to be doing some interviews with the players of the game you just saw. If you're just joining us, we are here at the North American School Scrabble Championships, and we just watched what an incredible game. A 700-point game from James Donnelly, who looks like a fan favorite to at least, make it pretty far in this tournament.
Yeah.
So Chloe, how many games is this tournament? What is the structure looking like? I'm putting you on the spot.
I believe the championship division, which is the middle, elementary and middle school, is 8 games. I could be wrong about this. I'm not 100% sure. And I believe the high school division is 9 games. I think that's how we had it last year, and I think we're sticking with the same format. And yeah, I think it's just because, the high schoolers, you want to get them, everyone's so strong. You want to give them more of a chance to have this be like a competitive
and over 2
event.
days. They're not playing all these games on one day. So it's been done.
It should be, it'll be very exciting to see.
Absolutely. And I think another thing, if you've never seen a Scrabble tournament before, is that this isn't an elimination thing. It's not like a March Madness situation. It is a very... It's about the long game, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, and I think there also is a final round for both the championship and the high school division, so that's always exciting.
Absolutely, and we'll of course be bringing you those with commentary. It looks like in just a few moments we'll be ready for Nitz to interview James. I cannot wait to hear his thoughts on this game. All right, folks, we are going to bring you over in just a moment to Nitz and James Donnelly, who just scored 705 points in his game against Audrey.
Hi everyone, this is Nitz from the North American School Scrabble Championship, and I'm here with our winner of the first round from the high school division, James Donnelly. Now, James was a runner-up of our last year's School Scrabble Championship. James, what's it like to be back here again and playing a 700-point game your very first time?
Obviously, the 700 points was incredibly lucky. I couldn't have done it without the help of those 2 blanks and multiple S's, but I'm really glad to be back here. It's my last year. I'm a senior and I'm going to high school next year, college next year. So I want to make a big impact on my last year at this tournament, and I've started off doing that. So.
Yeah, I'm sure 700 points is an impact and a half. So tell us, what were the points in the game where you were like, this is it, I know this word, but I have to play this. I have to.
Yeah, some of the key moments in the game, I'm sure, was biometry. That rack was not a very good one. B, M, and Y are not very synergistic. But there was a floating O, and I just pulled that word out of my butt and laid it down the board, and it stayed on, luckily. So.
Oh, and did you know that when you played copter, you had a 9-letter word, co-parent? Did you have that in your head?
Co-parent or co-partner?
Co-parent.
Co-parent is an 8, but I saw. Yeah. I actually did see co-partner, but I wasn't sure of it, so I don't study 9s. Wasn't confident enough to play it at that point of the game.
So you mentioned you haven't studied 9s. Well, what are you studying to prep for this?
I've told many of my friends I feel like I've studied harder for this than like any of my final exams. So I've just been grinding out 5-letter words, and there's kind of low probability bingos to study for this tournament, and so far it's paying out. So I'm glad.
I mean, you got biometry and you got Vendy, so obviously we can see that you're studying. Great job. I mean, James, what do you see yourself like going and doing with Scrabble after this? Are you gonna move into the multi-days?
Yeah, for sure. I've done a few multi-day tournaments. Shout outs to Josh and Kieran. They run great tournaments, but I haven't really made a big performance at any one of theirs. So I'm hoping after I finish this tournament, I'll go to another one and maybe, win.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see you at a multi-day and just absolutely dominating with your performance today. I mean, 700 points, that's nothing to sneeze at. It's a very elite club, as the commentators were already saying. So congratulations, James. You've done such a great job. Yeah, and we look forward to seeing you again on, the championship table.
Okay, yeah. Great.
Any last words?
Nope, that's it.
All right, thank you so much for your time. I have with me here Will Anderson, and Will is here to give his thoughts on the game.
Wow. First of all, great interview, Nitz. That was a pretty amazing performance by James. And obviously, just as he was last year, incredibly gracious in both victory and defeat. So that's the hallmark of our really strong players. And we mentioned it early on at the outset that James is definitely a player to watch here. You saw it in his play, incredibly impressive. Of course, the perfect storm for Audrey too. She is a very experienced, solid player in her own right, and you could just see her tiles were not flowing at all. So it really does kind of cut both ways, but hard not to be impressed with James after that first round.
It is. I know everyone's had that moment where they've had possible dumps, had bowel dumps, and Audrey, took it like a champ. She did what she could, playing auto or, like trying to make sure that she was getting rid of those vowels on her rack. And it really is a touch and go moment. Sometimes the tile gods they don't smile on you, and sometimes they give you two blanks.
That's true. That is the brutal thing about Scrabble. So if you're watching that game and saying, if you're new to Scrabble streaming or broadcast in general, and you're watching that game and saying, man, this seems insane. There's a 500-point deficit and there's a player scoring 700. That game is not indicative of the usual Scrabble experience. We've got 9 more games coming at you this weekend, and I have a really strong suspicion that all of them will be a little bit closer than that one, including some that are nail biters right down to the bitter end. And I can't wait to see which games those are. Hopefully the finals.
I know. I mean, if there's anything that James has taught us, it's your diligence. It's the word study that takes you far. But that's not to say that everyone here isn't as capable as everybody else. And we are sure to see some very, very close games. I mean, last year, if you will remember, the championship division itself, the winners were decided by one very last move. And this is something, that I'm sure we will see similar, strains of again this time.
That was amazing. To your point, last year, Nitz, that was an incredible finish in the championship division. We do have pretty much all of those competitors that were in that game. I want to amend a statement that I made at the outset of the broadcast, which was the defending champions in the championship division, the middle schoolers, Walden Giesentanner and his partner, Nathaniel Campos, are both back and eligible in the championship division to defend their title. So I have no doubt that we're going to see both of those incredibly experienced former champions. Man, I wish I had the list of champions handy in my mind or in front of us. I do not think there have been many defending champions of this event in history.
Right. And it really goes to show that you come back and you can't just, give up on your study. You can't just know that you're going to win the next year. You have to keep up with the studying. You have to keep up with the diligence. You have to keep learning. And that's what all of these kids are doing. That's what they're showing us, that despite, however many classes they have, however much homework or extracurriculars they have, they're keeping their heads down and they're studying and they're making sure that this is their event. And that is, something to really respect.
Yeah, it's kind of a contrast to some of the players at my age or older, the old geezers like myself. I don't have too many other hobbies other than Scrabble. I guess a few, right? I like baseball, I like my cats, but these kids are incredibly well-rounded. You never know what you're going to get asking these kids, what do you like to do outside of Scrabble? There are a lot of crazy answers that you wouldn't expect. Really amazing kids that we have here playing. I know I'm getting roasted on Twitch right now for what I just said, Nitz, but that's okay. I'm all right with that.
I know. Hobbies in your adult life, never heard of it. But these kids, sometimes you'll ask them, hey, what's your favorite ice cream? And they'll say Rocky Road. So they're on their way to being old geezers too.
What can you say? Lopsided first game. We're not going to see very many more games like that. So just to give you guys a little update, what's going on, there is a little bit of a break between rounds 1 and 2, but we're going to fill that silence here. One of our goals this year is to make this broadcast as entertaining, as engaging as possible. We have so many amazing, talented people behind the scenes working to make this stream successful. The least we could do is keep you guys a little bit of company during the breaks. And basically, Nitz, I think what happens here is we're deciding on what would be a good matchup for round 2 in the next round.
We want to keep you guys entertained. And one of the questions I have to do so is, Chloe and Hannah mentioned that it's a very elite club to be, scoring 700 points per game. And I've never done that. But I have to ask you, Will, have you ever gotten close to a 700 point game? Is that something that you've done?
James has accomplished something that I myself have never done. I have never scored 700 points in a sanctioned, rated tournament game of Scrabble. So kudos to James on achieving something that is not in my, trophy case, if you will. And if he ends up being the winner of his division, the high school division this year, and he was a finalist last year, you saw from his level of play how strong of a competitor he is. He's got a good chance at it, and that is also something that I have never done. So he'll be adding hardware in that trophy case that I'm a few years too old to be competing here. So I missed my window by just a little bit.
Yes, I mean we all remember from last year James playing on the board, and he was finding words with a speed and accuracy that was just beyond someone of his age. I mean, this showcases the kind of work that people are putting in. Scrabble is really important to the kids here. It's not just a hobby. It's not just something that's off to the side. These kids come in here, and all of them register with the knowledge that they want to work with their partners or themselves, and they want to win. And that takes dedication. That's something that takes time, and that takes diligence. And that's something, that the kids show us how we can be better.
It's a great point. It's a really good point, Nitz. And I do feel like Scrabble does pull so many different types of skills together in one game. And as you were making those points, I kept thinking to myself, something that I heard said once about Scrabble, which is, yeah, Scrabble is just a game, but it is a game that means a lot, an awful lot to a lot of people, not just the players in this room, but players around the country and the world play Scrabble, and it is a really important game to a lot of people. And a lot of it is that preparation that goes into the game, but some of it is that eureka moment over the board, which you can never prepare for. The game is always throwing crazy situations that you've never seen, that you can't prepare for, and having that creativity and that sense of unexpected. We can be working as hard as we can, learning our words, learning our strategy, but there's always going to be something unexpected. And I think that's what makes watching Scrabble a lot of fun as well.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, we've seen turnarounds like nothing before on streams in our own games. And I started playing Scrabble when I was 10 years old. I was a youth player in India. And the reason why I started playing Scrabble and I wanted to become a competitive Scrabble player is because when someone taught me how to do so, I had a eureka moment. I saw a word across the board and I thought, wow, I could chase this forever. And yeah, it really is such a high. It really is so exciting to see, oh my gosh, I anagrammed this word and I'm going to get plus 50 points because I found this word. And sometimes it's a word that you haven't studied, and that feels even better.
Well, I've talked about this with a lot of people. I'm a player that spent a lot of time learning the dictionary, and that helps me to see the words in game at a higher rate of accuracy. But I've also kind of deprived myself of that eureka moment, finding words. When you study words that much, as many of these players have done, there is that happy medium of, have you studied too much? Don't take away the magic of the game completely. Don't be like me, folks. That's what I'm telling you. Be more like these kids out in this room. So yeah, again, I feel at some point we'll get set up with the Twitch chat during these interviews. We don't have it up right now, but I know I'm being roasted yet again by everyone.
And let's not forget, we all know what Will is trying to say here. He's trying to say, do not learn your words so he can stay at the top. Yeah, we know where you're coming from, sir. You're not slick.
Yeah. Of course, I love seeing players like James and Walden and Nathaniel come up the ranks. The level of play in school Scrabble has just been incredible over the years. It really has improved to the point where almost all of the games towards the end of these tournaments are nearly indistinguishable from what you would see at the all ages level of Scrabble. It's truly amazing that players who have been playing this game a fraction as long as many of us have in the adult scene are playing at this level. So really can't underscore enough that these players are the best players in the country, certainly the best players at their age level, and it is a privilege to watch them play. So we hope you're enjoying it as well.
And we hope you're not playing them in living room Scrabble because that's not going to go well. I mean, some of us as seasoned players have gone to tournaments where we've seen, really young kids who are playing these multi-day events and they're standing on their chairs so they can look over and actually be able to see the board, and they will still destroy you. I mean, we have a prodigy in India right now, Madhav Kamath, and he is, I remember,
so young.
I have known him since he was a little boy, since his father actually joined the New Delhi Scrabble Club, and seeing someone grow up and seeing someone, look across the board and get, better and better and just absolutely destroy you. What a time. Even at the World Youth Scrabble Championship, when I used to go, it's now the Wespa Youth Championship. It really, I mean, the distinction and the differentiation across the age group is fantastic. You never know if someone who's going to be 8 years old is going to defeat someone who's 16 and has been studying the same dictionary for a lot longer. You have no idea how the tournament changes, how the tile gods will frown upon you or smile upon you, and the games go any which way. That's what makes it so exciting to watch, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree, Nitz. And I do think that Scrabble is one of those games. There are a handful in sort of the popular culture or the zeitgeist, so to speak, that really are universal in that sense. You can have younger players at this level going up against, senior citizens, and the game is what brings us all together. So it's a beautiful thing about the Scrabble culture in our competitive scene at large, and just with Scrabble in general. It really is a beautiful community that has all different people from all walks of life and ages and creeds, and every different type of person is well represented here. So it is pretty cool to see. It's been amazing to be a part of. And I'm just thrilled that we're going to have 9 more games of the top youth players in the country competing for us to watch and for you guys to enjoy as well. So just a quick update, if you guys are curious, players are still kind of having chats, milling around. Round 2 has yet to sort of start, as I know that the pairings are continuing to be finalized. And once we get that next round pairing, we will be sure to cut right back to the action when we have our round 2 matchup for the stream. So no idea what to expect. The only thing, Nitz, that I was saying to you guys, don't expect another 500-point margin in the next game.
No, that was very unique, and I cannot believe you guys got the treat that you did. First game out of the bat, a 534-point spread. That is absolutely ridiculous. We do not see that. And I mean, kudos to James for managing this. First game out of the bat, I know that I'm still yawning. It's really early in the morning. Well, it's almost afternoon now, but still, I mean, that really goes to show, how much variance there is in this game, because there are going to be other times when the games will be points apart, just absolute points, and they will come down to the strategy very much at the end.
Yeah, without question. And those are going to be fascinating when we get games like that. We have a little axiom in Scrabble. It isn't like a game like chess where the best player is expected to win each and every time they sit down to play. But there are going to be some games where you draw so well that you just can't lose with how good the tiles are once you get to that certain level of ability. So I do think that James, we saw an unbelievable, phenomenal level of play on his part, but he certainly drew the tiles he needed to score a boatload of points. When we see him again, we can expect that he is not going to draw quite so well, but his skill level is so high that he may still carry the day in a close game with a difficult opponent. So look for that if we see more of James. It sounds like we're getting the announcement that round 2 pairings have been posted. So I don't think it'll be too much longer now until we throw back down to the commentator's booth. But we still are waiting for that next round streaming matchup. So, yeah, Nitz, how does it feel in that first round if you do come out on the wrong end of a game like that? Where is your mind at moving forward in an event like this?
Well, okay. So I feel like we've had a similar discussion regarding this for Kingston when we were doing the commentary. And it really is about your mindset, isn't it? It always goes back to the mindset, because you cannot control the tiles. What you can control, however, is that you make the best play or the best move possible every single time. And one thing I think that has really helped me is knowing that I cannot control the outcome of a game, but I can control if I play the best move every single turn. And, to Chloe's point, James got all of the fantastic tiles. He got, the S in the end, he got the 2 blanks, but he knew what to do with them. He was making the best play possible. And that, I think, is really the end point for when you're trying to be a Scrabble player, trying to move on to the next game without, being too heartbroken about a 500 or 200 or even a 2-point loss. What matters is that you go into the next one knowing it's reset. It's basically like playing a puzzle. And yeah, shout out to puzzles on Wogles.io. I hope you guys do those, because it really is like putting yourself in the middle of a game and being like, I wonder what the best move is.
That mindset, that puzzle solving mindset is absolutely critical. And yeah, to your point, Nitz, sometimes it hurts more when you lose by 2 points compared to losing by several hundred points, just because those games feel like games where the win was right there in your grasp. Maybe one little thing that you could do differently is what could have turned the tide of the game. I don't think Audrey Benford needs to be thinking too much about making a different move that would have turned the tide of that game. It just wasn't there for her with those tiles. And that's how it goes. But yeah, to your point, mindset, such an important thing here. The length of this event too, so short, an 8-game main event until the finalists are determined. For you guys out there watching, we're going to have 10 rounds of action, but the players are going to be playing 8 rounds until finalists are determined. And then we will bring you one by one the finals of the championship division and the finals of the high school division. So, man, an 8-game tournament, that just doesn't feel very long.
But if you think about it, we're seasoned players. We've played multi-day tournaments many, many times. And for us, it feels like absolutely nothing. But if you're, a newer player, that stamina is something that you have to build. That is something that you have to exercise and learn that this is, okay, I need water, I need sugar, I need food, I need to, get to the next game. It's really a point where you have to learn what makes you feel better, make you feel more energetic going into the next round. And yeah, it's really a lot about that stamina. I have to say that when I first started out multi-day tournaments, I was exhausted by the end of the day. I had no idea what I was doing. But at the same time, with a shorter tournament like this, that over 8 games, you only have so many chances to win matches. So you have to do your best to maximize your spread, the point difference that you win by, because that's going to be the tiebreaker for a tournament that is this short.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm sure the commentators have mentioned that multiple times, but the margin of victory between games is the key tiebreaker that we use, as Nitz just said. So that's another thing with mindset, right? Knowing that that is the case, even if you're going to win a game, let's try to win by as many as we can. If you're going to lose a game, let's try to lose by as few points as we can so that you can keep your tiebreaker in good shape going forward. That's another really key part of the mindset of Scrabble. But to just a quick counterpoint, I totally agree with you that if this is your first ever Scrabble tournament experience, the way it is for many of these kids, it's going to be a little bit overwhelming. It's going to be a little fatiguing for sure. That's something to watch for. But also, I kind of wish I had my 8th grade or 7th grade energy level to get me through a day of Scrabble too. Sometimes at these things, at the end of the day, you see these kids running around with their hair on fire in the halls. We have this beautiful venue, the Planet Word Museum. There's exhibits, incredible things to see everywhere. And frankly, some of these kids should be a little more tired than they are, if you ask me. I don't know if that makes me a curmudgeon, Nitz.
No, I completely agree. I mean, I'm not in my 80s yet, but I feel like I am. I mean, the amount of coffee that I need to get through 3 days of Scrabble, it is immense. I wish I had that energy that I did when I was a kid. Though, I mean, I don't know how they do it. They get through their turns and they get through their rounds and suddenly they're just happy as can be. They just want to do the next thing.
It's amazing.
And I mean, that's why I think this location is so perfect with its exhibits. It's so entertaining and all of the kids, they can go, they can interact. And this is a great place to really hone in on your love for words. It's called Planet Word after all.
Yeah, it is a beautiful venue. Definitely recommend anybody visiting Washington, D.C. to stop by Planet Word. It's free to come in and look around, enjoy the exhibits. Truly a beautiful space. A number of really amazing interactive exhibits here. And obviously, Planet Word, hugely generous to allow us the space here. For it seems like a match made in heaven. School Scrabble Championship, Planet Word Museum. Really, really grateful to Planet Word for opening their doors to us here. So, I'm hearing a lot of tiles, that telltale sound, Nits. I hear a lot of the shaking of the tiles there. Have to assume that our next round matchup is coming momentarily. Once we get that cue that we've got our matchup ready to go, we will head straight down there. Don't think it'll be much longer now until we cut back to the action. So thank you, everybody watching along on Twitch. Really appreciate you guys tuning in bright and early to the School Scrabble Championship today. But we are just at the start. We have 4 more rounds, and we're going to be sort of trying to fill our lunch break with a little more content for you guys. To be determined. So it's not going to just be 2 hours of silence. We're going to try to do something interactive with both the kids and you, the Twitch viewers, potentially. So stay tuned for that as well. I'm excited for it.
And we have a lot of fun interviews coming up. So it's not just the kids that you're hearing from. It's also from all the notable entities who are walking around and making sure this event even took place. And we're getting the notice now. I think we're going to start moving to the second game. Thank you so much for watching. You are at the North American School Scrabble Championship.
Okay.
And welcome back, folks. Once again, I am Hannah Lieberman. I'm here with the fabulous Chloe Fatsis. Chloe, you just had an incredible tournament yourself, scoring some real rating points in Poughkeepsie. And I'm more here to be the layman's Scrabble player.
No, don't sell yourself short, Hannah.
But we are about to see another great game. We're not quite sure who exactly is going to be playing yet, but we are going to be seeing players from our high school division. We saw an incredible game last round, Chloe.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, 700 points, just, that does not happen often. So that is a real treat to get to see that on stream.
I think 700 points is, a pretty valid score for combined score of both players. And we saw it from just one side. Stars really aligned there. James Donnelly, certainly one to watch. But not the only, he's not going to run away with this. He's going to have some tough competition.
It'll be an exciting couple days here in DC watching this high school division unfold. I know there's a bunch of strong players who've been putting a lot of work in. And
someone is noting, Alex Ding says in the Twitch stream that he scored those 700 points without phoning, without playing any false words, which is
pretty incredible.
I got close once, but it turns out my brother and I had phoned 4 times unknowingly. But I have a great one time I was playing school Scrabble in a school Scrabble tournament with a partner, and my mom saw that we had gone up and lost a challenge. And after the game, she asked us what was wrong. And we said, get this, R-E does not take an S. And she was like, yes, it does. And I was like, it doesn't. We know the other word was good. And she said, wait, what was the other word? We were like, slidier.
Slidier.
The slip and slide is slidier on the pavement than it is on the grass.
Classic.
Obviously.
So you didn't challenge both words. You just assumed slidier was good.
I just assumed
it's a good moral of the story. Always challenge anything that you're unsure of. Okay, so it looks like we have our next pairing for the high school division. It's going to be Dathan against Cherish.
This is going to be incredibly fun to watch. Cherish had an amazing tournament last year. She has great word knowledge. Not sure that's a good Scrabble tip. What do we know about Dathan? Well, first, what we know is that he's going to have a big challenge ahead of him.
Yeah, for sure. Cherish is a super strong player. I believe she finished in 3rd place in last year's. I might be wrong about that. Don't quote me on it. And I think she's finished in 2nd place in the championship division at a school Scrabble championships a few years back with a partner. So she is no stranger to youth Scrabble
Absolutely.
or those all age tournaments we were talking
Yeah,
about.
I do
She has
believe she's
competed in those as
also-
well.
Right. And those all-age tournaments, they are, very useful for getting a player trained, especially if there aren't as many school Scrabble tournaments happening throughout the year. But they can be tricky because it is a slightly different dictionary.
Yep. And
we have someone asking in the chat what happens if someone plays a word that's no good. There's a whole process called challenging, where the other player can decide if they want to challenge the word or not. If the word ends up being good, the challenger loses their turn. If the word ends up not being good, the player who played it loses their turn, which can be incredibly costly. There's no limit on that, but the stakes are high. Okay, looks like the players are ready. We are about to see another fabulous game here at the North American School Scrabble Championships. And here they are.
Here we go. I believe Dathan Lang against Cherish Ambi Okolo. And it looks like Dathan is going first.
Not me getting excited that Nathan Lane was playing in this tournament. He's a child at heart. All right, so he's drawing his tiles, and we can see he is doing the proper etiquette here of drawing behind his back so he can't see any of those tiles.
Exemplary.
Right, putting them face down. Ooh, he has nice tiles. Let's see if we can get a slightly better view of those.
Did I misread that? Is that the word? I do not know.
Yes, it looks like he has cheers plus an extra E.
No cheeser.
No cheeser. Maybe, but
he's going to play cheer. Super solid play.
And what an incredible leave it gives him.
Yes.
This is another rack like we saw in the last game where it perhaps could have benefited from going second because there are certainly a lot of 8-letter words in there. But Cherish doesn't have bad letters either. We're seeing already a bit of a more equitable game than last time.
Yeah, totally. She actually has the word unbaited set up on her rack, which will be great for her.
Absolutely.
I believe that's a word, and it should come down unbaited, actually. Yeah, is that... Oh, no, wait. Is that a word?
We have to check and see.
I don't think it is. Yeah, I think I actually recently saw that played as a phony in a game. That's why I'm thinking it's a word.
Also because she put it on her rack. But you know what? That's going to be a hard call because from Dathan's perspective, it's a certainly plausible word. I believed you when you said it. It is good in Collins, which is a different lexicon, a different dictionary that these players are not using. That can also be tricky, switching between those dictionaries if you're used to playing in Collins.
Yeah, and I know Cherish has done both, so...
That can certainly be tricky. The good news for her is if she does play it, knowing or not knowing that it's a phony, if she plays it confidently, and I'm Dathan, gosh, it's the beginning of the game. I don't know that, I would challenge that. So I truly believed it was a word when you said.
Yeah, Cherish is a super strong player. And, sometimes when you're playing someone you know is a good player, at least for me, I don't know about other people, but it makes it harder for me to challenge because I know them as someone who knows words. But of the real words that she has available... we can talk about a few options. So one thing she has is B-A-U-D.
Mm-hmm.
That would be on top of cheer, making B-E and A-R. It's just one of those plays that scores points, 20 points, keeps a synergistic leave of I-N-T.
That's a great leave.
It doesn't really give a ton back to Dathan.
What we saw in the last game is that a lot of the good options at this point in the game were also then setting up good options. It looks like she might be playing Bandit. Let's see.
Yeah, she plays Bandit.
It's a good, another super
it's nice to score some points. I would like to get rid of the U here. It's really not the best tile, but if you don't see Bod, there's not a ton of other ways to do that well.
She also sets up a lot of lanes, but at the beginning of the game, it's hard to avoid that.
Yeah.
Now, Dathan has a tough kind of rack here. I's and Y's tend to not be very friendly together. It's going to be interesting to see how he gets rid of those. I think it might be worth it, honestly, to play something like Icy. I just would be really eager to get rid of those double I's.
Yeah, I think the leave of E-I-I-R-S, if you play Y-E, making B-E-Y and R-E is really not so bad. I think I wouldn't be surprised if it still hits a lot of bingos the next turn, and it scores 24 points for Y-E. So sometimes you have to make that calculation of, do I take the 8 points and keep a better leave, but is it really worth this 16-point sacrifice? And when the game is so early on, you don't need to bingo right away. Obviously,
Exactly.
it's good.
I think I'm a little maybe shell shocked from all
Okay,
the
but
vowels
he
from
does
last
play
game.
icy, so you're onto something there. I think if you're gonna go that more fishing route, I might have done something like Yeti through the through the T
Yep,
of
get rid
Bandit.
of
Get rid
also-
of another E.
And also block up in a way, at least make that triple lane a little more difficult.
Right. And Cherish drew a second U to go with her first one.
Right.
So that kind of goes to show the danger of the U. It's already bad enough when you have one, but two really don't go well together. And there's often one play that you make when you have two U's, if you can. It's ULU, Ulu.
Right.
And she does have that available to play. It is in a kind of risky spot. It would be on top
Yeah.
of Bandit, making UT, but it goes one spot to the left of that triple word column.
And it does take an S.
Yeah,
So that
so-
would be a bit risky.
Yeah, another option she has, which is a little safer but does still keep a U, is Twile. How do you
Yeah,
say that word?
right. She could also
Tuile underneath to score some points.
right. She could do just a basic TUI or until somewhere. She is going to play.
She plays Etui, a reasonable option.
I like
sort
that
of
option.
in the
Her
middle
lead
there.
is not terrible at all.
Oh wow, but a great draw for Dathan here.
Wow.
So I would not be surprised if he bingos here. He has the word Seriate on his
He
rack.
is Ariest.
Arius also plays. So yeah, where do we think he's going to do that? He can actually make Seriate and do some cool underlaps, making BES,
absolutely.
ARE, TET, and TE, right? 9G, yeah. It'll play there.
Wow, that can certainly rack up some points. You know, sometimes your instinct is to find the double letters or the double words. Oh, he goes with Tyrius. He went with
Very
an
nice
8.
find, yeah.
It's a little bit riskier in terms of setting up the board.
Right.
But again, this early in the game, go for those points.
Yeah, it scores 4 more points than Seriate, so it's honestly a super close call between
Oh, I
the
don't know.
two.
He actually did go with Ariest.
Sorry.
Apologies on that. We were checking out the Quackle. He went with Ariest, which, again, I do think Seriate would have been a little bit better for the sake of not opening up the board as much.
Right.
But it's a great play. It's a great find. He definitely knew that bingo rack. Again, when we're at this level of players, they are studying these common bingos. You probably saw satire plus a blank. It says common studying, right? SATIRE plus another letter.
Yeah,
What will
and
he
Cherish
have?
will have a nice play available here of Unthaw if she sees it through that T that Dathan just threw out from Ariest. So that just kind of goes to show the danger of putting a letter in that triple lane, because a rack that was really not so promising for Cherish, 2 A's, a U, a W, turns out to actually have a ton of points that it gives back.
Right.
And what does she do? She plays WHA, so scores super well.
Yeah, that's a great play. It also opens up a few lanes. That's going to happen at the beginning of the game, but it leaves her with a really nice balanced leave. Unthaw would have been great just because you also get rid of that U. You rack up a ton of points.
It's a little bit safer.
Take up that spot. Oh, and is that another U that she drew?
I think it might be. What does Dathan have?
Let's see.
He has float available. So yeah, that way. So yeah, making WAY was really, it was a risky move from Cherish because that takes a few front hooks. We have sway. You can put an S there. Also away works. So if he sees that, he can make away. He might be able to do something with that. Playing float, making THE as well. And yeah, that'll score a ton of points. He sees the word. Will he make it? Will he play it there? And he does.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
Very nice. And another great leave. It's nice to see kind of more equitable tiles in this game.
Yeah.
Now, that's going to certainly make this spread deficit a little greater.
However, Cherish
Fortunately,
did pick up a blank.
She picked up a blank. She also...
She has a couple U's, but I think there's a chance she might still be able to bingo here. I can't make out what her last letter
or
is.
unequal?
I think
always mix that up.
unequal is a word, I believe. She also is that an N, her last letter?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, she has no, it's not unequal. God, I don't know anything. But yeah,
I always mix up if it's unequal or unequal, and I say them in my head 10 times. Ooh, did what am I saying? Did Dathan also pick up a blank? He did, and a Z. He's got great letters too.
So yeah, it looks like Cherish sees some options for 8-letter words like undulate. However, unfortunately, there is not a spot for that on this board, I think. Right?
Let's see what
Oh,
she
there's a
goes
D
for.
right there. God, I can't see anything. Yeah, so the D for undulate looks great. Oh, I think we had the rack in wrong in Quackle. is what we're
Absolutely.
looking
But
at.
she is going to play that 8 of undulate. It's a great find. What I love about this game so far that we're seeing is this open board with plenty of opportunities for scoring. Last time we saw one player get a little bit backed into a corner because she didn't really have the tiles to use on the board. This time we're seeing a really evenly matched game in terms of luck. Now, as we're seeing in the Twitch chat here, Dathan actually has some great tiles as well.
Oh, and he's gonna play ZD, which is a really nice, useful word. Gets rid of 2 eyes and a Z. If he'd
It's
taken an
true.
extra second there, he might have been able to do something a little better. In fact, he had a bingo available of Utilizer through that T.
Even if he didn't see that bingo, if he had played Ritz, RITZ, and kept that eye on his rack, LIE blank is also a fabulous
Yeah.
leave, and it would have been a lot more points.
So yeah, sometimes it's just really important to take that extra second.
Wow, Cherish here has another great rack.
Yeah, I think she should be able to bingo here with erosive, making undulates. If she sees it, it's not a normal word,
Right.
But
she might be looking for a prefix of like over size, over something.
Yeah,
over lies with undulate.
yeah, she's looking at votaries. I think the word is spelled with an A, votaries, Votaries.
But again, we don't know if Dathan knows this. At this point, Cherish has proven herself to be an incredible player. He might already know that from last
So
year.
let's see. It looks like they're writing down the scores, so he might have accepted this play. We'll see if she draws tiles. Yeah. So it looks like Cherish is gonna get away with that
it
here.
looks like he has the word Scrabble almost.
So yeah, sometimes you're playing a player you know is a strong player, but it's always good to just say hold, take a second, think it through, and yeah, it's hard to know sometimes.
So for Dathan's part, it does look like he has a few bingos here. I'm seeing.
He set up Scrabble on his
Right.
rack. Very nice.
Wow, we couldn't ask for more appropriate words here. He could do something through the U of undulate, that first U, something like crumblers, or I'm sure there's something in there. Let's check it out.
crumbles would play.
Right, crumbles, clumbers, clubbers.
Yeah, also anything making SI with the I and icy can fit. Obviously, those will be a little more risky, just opening a bunch of new lanes on the board. Something like
Absolutely.
cablers. I wonder what it looks like. He looks like he's thinking of calibers, maybe. I don't know if that fits anywhere, though. So we'll see what he does. He has options. I would not be surprised if he finds a bingo here. Yeah, and what a great draw.
Yeah, we again are seeing some amazing tiles here. He's had 2 sort of missteps. I hesitate to say that because he is playing incredibly well with missing Ritz and then with accepting votaries, both of which are completely understandable. So here's hoping he can pick up some points. It's still a really close game. 25-point difference is, it's anyone's game at this point. So we'll see if he's able to find.
A bingo will put him right back in it.
Looks like he has found clubbers.
Yeah, totally. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I think I'm very much expecting him to find something. I think he also had cablers set up a minute ago. So
Right. And it's also important to note that he has plenty of time.
Yeah.
The instinct can be to rush. We saw that a little bit with the ZD play. You get so excited about something that you want to put it down. But he has plenty of time to find a bingo, a 7-letter word. And what else is important is that your time isn't per turn. It's for the whole game. Mm-hmm. So maybe you have some turns that you do quickly. You have other ones where you have plenty of opportunity, of time to take that opportunity and really think things through.
Yep.
So
I'm glad to see him taking some time here because, it's just so important to make sure you're not missing anything. And especially with a blank, you'll find that that's the turns that people take the most turn on, just because you have to go through and think of every single letter that blank could be, so that you don't miss something. Whereas when you have all natural tiles, no blank tile on your rack, it's a lot easier to spot those options because there's just far fewer of them.
Absolutely. I do think that he needs to start looking at, I'm sure he's done this already, but he needs to start looking at the 8-letter options. If he doesn't know cablers, or I think Corbels was the other one, then he is going to have to go through something, and that U is the most obvious option. So I'm hoping he comes to that conclusion. I do think, broccoli, maybe. I think he's trying to look for 7-letter words here. And what we saw with both of Cherish's bingos is that sometimes that's not the easiest option. Sometimes it's easier to actually look through the letters that are already on the board. Also important to, he's doing verbs.
Verbs, okay.
Gives
so
him
yeah.
a good leave.
Yeah, it's very reasonable when you have a blank to want to make, if you don't see anything, taking whatever, 33 points, keeping the blank for the next turn is a really good strategy. CL blank is a great leave. CL goes well together. The blank is obviously great. And he still takes a slight lead even after not bingoing. So yeah, there were definitely some options there. The bingo, and I think I would have played the bingos. I don't think it's one of those turns where his non-bingo play scored quite enough to warrant sacrificing over the bingo.
But if you don't know,
yeah,
then perfectly valid move.
Exactly.
He has great letters
Yeah,
now.
so I think he has another opportunity to find something this next turn. And looks like Cherish is going to play Smokey for a whole bunch of points. Really nice play. Yeah.
You can also see from her rack that she knew if he doesn't take that spot, that's what she's playing.
Yeah.
But again, we saw some great, self-policing here where she was able to say, hey, even though I know this is the best play, I'm going to take a minute, see what he played, assess the situation.
Yeah, and scoring 51 points there.
Oh, he's
really
found
great.
alcoves.
So he has so we know he can bingo now. He has alcoves. I'm sure he sees that S hook. I think he probably just wasn't sure of cablers. Probably. I wouldn't be sure of it either. It's a weird looking word. So yeah, that should come down.
I don't know if he'd have a reason to know clubbers quite yet in his life. I used to think that meant hitting a mailbox with a baseball bat. Clubbers.
So he is playing alcoves. Very
Beautiful.
nice find. Yeah, it has a cool anagram of co-evils, co-evals.
And for those of you who are maybe new to the Scrabble scene, what he just did on the side there was designate that blank. So he has to write down what the blank is. And looks like alcoved may also. Well, of course, that wouldn't play. DI is not a word.
Yeah.
Very impressive that he found alcoves, though. Again, it's not this kind of bingo where we're ending with an ing, where we're ending with an ERS. He had to find a pretty rare, I'd say, 6-letter word, and then add that S onto it. He does set up the triple lane, knowing Cherish, she's not going to let that let that slide. But
yeah, let's see, what options does she have here? Honestly, nothing amazing.
Like Woad, W-O-A-D.
Yeah, Woad looks pretty solid. But yeah, he's not going to get hit by a huge bingo here or something like that.
Yeah, she won't triple. But, given her rack, getting rid of at least 2 consonants is the goal here. Woad scores pretty well.
Yeah, it
30
great.
points. And yeah, it's not a bad option. Looks like that is what she's going to go with.
Yeah, and it's good when you see, like, we were talking about the time thing, and sometimes it's true when you have a rack, especially with a blank, you do want to take that extra time and look. Like we saw in the ZD turn, maybe Dathan could have benefited from taking an extra second there to think about all his options. But when you see these plays that do exactly what you want to do, they keep a slightly more balanced leave on your rack, they score super well, and sometimes you just know, like, you're not going to find anything better. And then it's good to also, on the flip side, not waste time and instead preserve your time for later on in the game.
Absolutely. Now, we're seeing a few options with Dathan's rack here. He has these kinds of letters where if you could bingo with them, we call them bingo-friendly tiles, they would be excellent. But they are, unfortunately, I don't think I'm missing anything. I think they're not making a word on here. So his best option is probably to play off at least one of those N's, and I would say the O with it.
Yeah, a good option looks like NO, scoring 18. Where would that be?
Looks like he can do it with Smokey.
Right,
hooking on a K.
Okay.
That's probably the most points he's going to grab for that.
Yeah, no, that seems totally good. ADENR is a really good leave. The letters go well together. There's a few spots on this board to play bingo still. So I think, when it's a tie game right now, you want to take the lead. You want to be building towards those bingos.
Literally a tie game.
tie game.
So different from the last game we're seeing. It's also noteworthy that these opportunities he could have for more points, like with the double letter that's nearby alcoves, he can't really utilize in the same way that, say, Cherish could last turn because he doesn't have anything more than 2 points on his rack.
Right.
It's kind of like what we saw in the last game where you have these potentially great tiles, but if you can't do anything with them, then it's not worth quite as much. Awesome. So it looks like he is looking to play no or nod, something to leave him with. Again, we just want to leave one N. We don't want to. We don't want to get rid of too many of our good tiles. He's certainly his bingo friendly tiles, and he is going for that NO.
Oh, so he had 2 O's. Sorry, we misread. We didn't see his rack correctly. Yeah, NOO makes sense here. Getting rid of that extra O. Yeah, because we talked about like the vowel consonant leave thing, and
Right.
AENR is a better leave than AENOR, just
You
because
really
you don't
want
really
to-
need that O for anything, especially when there's one on the board already with alcoves to play through.
It's what we call balancing a rack. So she played picks, which I think is a great play, racks up a ton of points. I could also see playing prong off of alcoves just for the sake of getting rid of some more consonants and leaving that X.
Yeah, I just think the points of picks are really good. I mean, it's a quite a big difference. So I think
Absolutely.
and GRNDT, the problem, yeah, it does have the potential to go south, like we just saw with her draw of Q. It's not gonna help her, and no vowels to go with it. But yeah, let's see what Dathan can do here. What did he draw? So no
tiles.
bingos, but he still has good options. That OF, he's going to want to be looking to get rid of, and he actually has a really perfect spot to do that. On top of that phony bingo of votaries, he can make OF for 28.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he plays that, but it looks like he might be playing oft, or the letters
Or
of
maybe
oft
something
somewhere
for
else.
foot.
Okay, foot,
Right.
yeah. So I think that's just another example of taking an extra second to realize you can score 6 more points, keep the T, which does help the leave, also leave a little more space open on the board.
Right, and also block what is a very good space with that E being available.
Right.
Though I guess the same argument could be made with the O being available here.
Yeah, I don't think the E is like a huge risk generally, but
Yeah,
you know,
it's
when you
not-
can take advantage of it,
The most you could get is what he would have gotten
yeah, pretty much.
off of.
But yeah, Cherish does not have great options here.
Wow, if together they have great racks.
So it looks like she's gonna play Grunt, keeping
Right, which is a
QDS.
pretty similar option to prong from last time, where you're just trying to get rid of as many things as you can without trading.
Yeah. Makes sense. I might have considered just playing off the Q with QI for 11. There's a couple spots to do that, but it's definitely not like a clear-cut decision one
She
way
could
or the
also
other.
play SUQ
Yeah.
for, get some points. It does kind of
Yeah.
sting to get rid of power tiles.
And now we
like
can
that.
kind of see these bingo-friendly tiles that Dathan had kind of getting a little more and more
We're
less bingo.
deviating,
Yeah,
right?
he does have a good play setup of rejig to the G of Grunt. That'll score a bunch of points. And, it won't keep that same leave. But sometimes if you have like a 30, 40 point play, you just take the points. You don't
Right.
always need to be so, it's
There's
42.
a big trap, I think, with some new players where they're so
And you'll-
excited about
yeah.
the possibility of bingoing that they do what's called fishing.
Yeah, and you'll see this a lot in school Scrabble eventually. I'm sure neither of us is a stranger to that from our
Absolutely
experience.
not.
I fished so
you
much
get
in school
so
Scrabble.
enamored with the idea of bingoing, of getting those 50 extra points from using all your letters, that you end up playing
Mm-hmm.
off a few tiles for these much worse scoring plays. And, that adds up. If you're sacrificing 3 turns to get to your bingo, okay, so he played on, maybe he wasn't sure of rejig.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what he's going for there, if he's setting something up.
Also, from Dathan's perspective, he doesn't know that the Q is gone yet. I maybe, if I didn't know rejig, would have played jab. Get some points for
jib
that
or
J.
jab. The J, it's deceiving. It might seem like a good tile. It scores 8 points, but it's really kind of inflexible and hard to work with.
Exactly. I would always take an X over a J and a Z over a Q.
Yeah. So I think maybe this is one of those examples of some sort of fishing type play. I'm not really sure exactly. But because the J, it's not really most commonly used for bingos. But yeah, just taking that extra second to think about ways that you can keep scoring, because when a game is so close, if you look at the scores now, he went up 6 points from that play.
Gosh, it's been tied neck and neck
Yeah,
this
I know.
whole game.
But when you score 30 or 40, you're actually taking a lead and making it so Cherish is the one having to play catch up instead of her having the opportunity now to take a slight lead and sort of flip things.
Absolutely. So it does look like she sees a few options. She can play her QIS. Um, Honestly, if I were Cherish, I think what I would do is probably just play my Q off unless there's a higher scoring Q play.
I think I would play QIS. Let's see. It's 31 versus 11.
Right.
That's
Especially when it's such a close
usually
game.
the S is valued at 8 or 9 points. So I think taking that 20 extra points certainly is worth it.
And it's not like it's remained a particularly bingo friendly board.
Exactly.
Bingos are possible, but hanging on to that S isn't necessarily
S-
the most useful
Yeah,
tile
this
right
board,
now.
there's really no great spots for the S on this board. Also, whenever I think about making a play that plays off one tile, I'm always going to be thinking about what letters can I draw that would give me a bingo. And
Right.
since she's keeping so many consonants, there's really not that much she could draw that would A, bingo, and B, fit on this board.
Right, with the best case scenario be worth it.
So I would go for QIS here.
One
There
nice thing about
yeah.
QIS too is that should her opponent be able to play off of it, it then sets up the triple lane for
Right.
her. So it's kind of this, I scratch your back, you scratch mine situation. I do think that's the best play. She might be looks like maybe she's looking to get rid of some of her other tiles, which I understand the impulse to do that, but it's not like she's going to be able to score much higher with
I
the
think
Q than she has.
With both of these players, we're seeing maybe a bit of a affinity for these high scoring power tiles, the J and the Q. But when you take a step back and think about it, they often really just hinder what you're doing. So taking gem for 11 points, or what is that, 13 points, you're not really scoring, you're scoring a lot less than you would with QIS. And the Q, what's it gonna, you have to think about what's it gonna do for you next turn.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure that the Q is gonna get so much better on this board.
So we see from Dathan, JEU, great play. He could have gotten basically the equivalent from playing jab or jib last time. So I think he's cut his losses at this point. Maybe he's realizing, I'm not really going to bingo with it. I just need to get points for it to make it worthwhile.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty reasonable. I wonder what other options he had. I didn't have a long time to take a look. But now Cherish, so like another point with that last play of Gem is that there's no more U's left. They've all been used up. The U is by far the best tile to go with the Q. Otherwise, it's very inflexible. She did draw caddies, which it looks like she's thinking about playing now.
It's a little bit riskier to play QADIS just because there are lots of words like caddies where you don't need the U to play that Q. She could potentially give her opponent that triple line with the Q. Also, my instinct would be to kind of keep one of my vowels at this point.
I would look at the
let's see what tiles are left.
Well, we're
in the
actually
bag here.
very close to being empty. Are we? Yeah. Oh wow, I didn't realize the game was so close to over. But Dathan does have some good tiles.
But unfortunately, I don't think he has a way to get that Q to reach.
Yeah, though it looks like let's see, it's 374, 392. Cherish has PGN. So basically the question right now for Dathan is, can she go out with those letters? I see one spot off the top of my head with paying.
I think his instinct is probably to take that spot. I would, knowing that there's no S or blank left for her to hook it, I would probably do something like id off of the QI just to rack up points, hoping that I'm not seeing another spot for her to go out, and then just hoping that
so I think what's really important for Dathan here is recognizing A, that the bag is empty. B, what you want to do now is you want to track the tiles to figure out what Cherish has on her rack. So if he does that and realizes, Cherish only has one place to play all three of her tiles because she only has consonants, so there's really only one vowel on the board for her to play through.
And to give Cherish credit, she might have played caddies, she might have tracked and known that there was nothing he could do there with that. Tracking, can we explain quickly what tracking is? So basically, when you have throughout the game, when your opponent is playing tiles, you are marking them off on your sheet to see what is left. And the benefit of this is for a close game like this, at the end of the game, we can see what tiles remain and what our opponent has on their rack.
Yeah, so what's interesting, okay, going back to the Cadi's turn, I feel like now that I know that there was one tile in the bag, that makes it a lot more interesting of position and more to analyze. And I think from Cherish's perspective, Cadi's was a lot more of a reasonable play because when you're going into an end game, you want to be the first one to use up all the tiles in your rack. So we
Right.
call it like an out in two often. You want to go out in 2 turns, use all the tiles in your rack in 2 turns. So Caddy's played off 5 tiles. She drew 1, so she's only going to have 3 on her rack.
She
That's
definitely-
going to give her a much better chance of going out in those 2 turns than a play like QIS, keeping 2 extra tiles. She'll have 5 on her rack. And also, if you look at that bag from her perspective,
There's no risk.
there was 4 vowels and 4 consonants, so she had a really
Right.
good chance of drawing a vowel that turn and probably having outplays in multiple spots, as opposed to what ended up happening, which is she drew outs in 1 spot.
Now, I think Dathan made a great move here because he
Yes, it is a winning play.
He blocked that outplay. He got rid of it's that out and 2, right? If he had just played something like id, it would be a lot harder for him to go out the next turn. Now he only has AAL. ALA is also a word.
Yeah, he should have multiple spots to play those. And unfortunately for Cherish, it looks like he's just going to be able to squeak this game out. She can't use all her tiles. She might get some points here with her P or her G.
But she is already down. It would be different if she were up
Yeah.
a little bit, but she's down.
And it's not going to be
13.
enough for her, no matter what she does.
And
unless,
what we have to think about is
Yeah.
she's not only going to get that 13. She's not only down the 13, but he's also going to get double whatever points are left on her rack.
Yeah.
Yeah, if she had just picked a vowel, that would have been a much different story.
From her perspective, there were 4 vowels and 4 consonants in the bag, meaning she had a 50% chance when she drew 1 tile, or, in the pool of tiles, there was only 1 tile in the bag. So 50% chance of drawing a vowel. If she did, I imagine this game might have gone in her favor, though even with that, having something like Ired to score so well for Dathan
Right.
still might have been enough.
Although I also wonder now, knowing what we know, which again, not to fault Cherish at all because she didn't know this, if she had played QIS, left herself a vowel, since she can't go out in 2 anyways. If he had played something off of it like Raid, she could have potentially played off of that.
Yeah.
Or she could have played Plan with
I
Load.
think my one thing with caddies is I might have gone with QAIDS instead to make it harder to
Absolutely.
parallel on the right side, because when you have this consonant vowel, it's a lot easier to make words that go next to it, like we saw with Ired. If it was QAIDS,
He'd have
he
to
would
play
not have.
id.
Yeah, he would have had to
Yeah.
play id, and maybe in some world where she drew a vowel, that would not have scored enough points for her. Or sorry, for him.
And even if it did score enough points, he couldn't go out in 1 turn. She'd have 2 chances to get rid of all her tiles. But that is such far-thinking strategy.
I know. And that's the thing in Scrabble, when these games are so close, you're like splitting hairs at these differences that maybe could make a difference. So it just goes to show like how much thought goes into this. And clearly Cherish did put a lot of thought into that turn of caddies, because it seems like she recognized that she needed to play as many tiles as she could there. And I think for that reason, caddies was a very reasonable play over QIS. But it just did not work out in this situation.
I also think we can see Cherish now tracking very carefully. She wants to make sure she's not making any uninformed decisions here. I think I've seen her double-checking her or triple-checking her tracking. Tracking is trickier than it seems. Wow, that was a tough sentence to get out. Triple-checking her tracking is trickier than it seems. So many games I've been confident about what my opponent has, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, there was still an F. But I think she's doing the right thing by taking her time. She's still got plenty of time on her clock. I'm really impressed with the patience that we're seeing these players have.
Yeah, totally. And it's been a really great game all around. Lots of bingos, good scoring plays. And yeah, with a super tight end game, really close. It's always exciting when it comes down to the wire like this, and it comes down to those last couple turns, and like whatever tiles are left in the bag can determine who wins or loses.
Absolutely.
So yeah, definitely, like Will was saying before the game, this was a much closer margin than our previous game, so I'm glad we got some variety in spread between the first 2 games.
And we're also just seeing a much more equitable distribution of good tiles, not just with power tiles, but just balance on these racks, which has been nice. It's a little more playable. In terms of her options now, there is nothing that I think would win the game for her. She could play her P off of votaries. just to get a few points in there.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's just not going to be enough. And
Right. But at the end of the day, both players will have scored over 400 points.
Yeah, pretty great.
Which is basically the same combined score as last game.
Right. But yeah,
Right,
Cherish
in
is
a
no
different way.
stranger to high scores. Neither of these players are. Both super talented. Really know what they're doing as we've seen in this game. So yeah, I'm not at all surprised that we had this close and exciting game.
Absolutely, and both of these players are certainly ones to watch in this tournament.
Totally.
Do we know how they did in their last games?
I imagine they both won. I think. Okay, so interestingly, so we have our Quackle helper who was analyzing the previous turn of Cades versus Caddies, and apparently QIS actually did win, I think, one more endgame scenario than Caddies, yeah, let's see. So QIS won apparently 3 out of 8 times. I would be interested to see.
It was that 50-50 risk of would she get a vowel.
Yeah.
I did think QIS was a little less risky, but I also said that without knowing what was left in the bag.
Yeah.
That she wasn't setting up something to the triple, but Dathan was able to rack up points even without that triple, just because he had an eye.
Right. Yeah, no, this is a super close endgame, really tight, lots of options to consider on that Caddy's turn, and then on the Ired turn for Dathan, he had a whole bunch of options like Ired that would seal up the game. So really great job spotting that. It's not an easy word to see.
Absolutely. And for our Quackle is a software that tells you kind of what the best move is, just statistically. QADIS that Cherish played only wins in 1 out of 8 scenarios.
So
again,
even if she drew a vowel, it still probably most of the time wouldn't have been enough to win.
Absolutely. You know, I think even if you have 25 minutes on your rack, it's going to be hard to match a computer in terms of thinking out every single possible scenario. Scrabble is sometimes just a game of risk.
Yeah, it's tough.
I was impressed too that he took the time to find Ired, because my immediate instinct was play id, you get points. But it is that going out in 2 turns that's more important. What we really see at this level of play, I think, is that these players know to sacrifice points for strategy, and that can be really hard to communicate to someone who's maybe newer to Scrabble. They're always like, yeah, the goal is to get points. The goal is to win the game. And sometimes winning the game but scoring fewer points, it's worth it, because I tell you what, this tournament comes down to who has the most wins, right?
Yep.
You look at wins before you look at spread. So definitely made the right move there. In terms of that Quackle with QADIS that Cherish played, anything where Dathan blocks that A and that outplay for her of Pang.
It would have won for Dathan. Id would have won. Anything blocking that A was a win. So yeah, Dathan had the right idea, recognizing that was the only spot for Cherish to go out and blocking it. And yeah, we see Cherish plays Pig. She knows that there's nothing she can do now unless Dathan misses one of his outplays, which I don't think is going to happen. And yeah, he plays ALA.
Right. A little bit better up there where he's now choosing to play it. What a great showing from both of these players. What a game. Incredibly close game.
And they both played pretty fast, though. Took their time at the end to make sure.
Which I love. Yeah. That is kind of the benefit of playing more quickly in the beginning of the game. Is you can really take your time. Something I've noticed as I've kind of moved up the ranks in my own Scrabble is that Division 1 takes a lot longer than the other divisions, because they're really taking their time in these games.
Yeah, it's funny how the more you learn, the more there is to think about, the better. Yeah, and then games just take longer.
Exactly.
Looks like they're finishing up. Trying to figure out their end of game procedure. It works a little differently here than
we see Nitz coming in and helping. She is so fabulous, and she'll be interviewing Dathan after this game, getting his take on what his thought process was throughout the game. Really great to see. In our last game there were almost no missteps. In this game we saw a few interesting things. Things could have gone a lot differently if he had played Ritz, if he had known Votaries
was phony.
If she had thought to play QAIDS. There's a lot of ifs in this game. I love Scrabble because it really is such a game of chance and skill.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so many interesting turns to talk about. Yeah, I'm really interested to hear Dathan's thoughts. I want to know what he was thinking on that bun turn as well. Definitely not
too.
standard. I'm sure he had his reasons for it. Yeah, I would just love to hear about that. Because like we saw he had rejig set up, and usually anytime you see a play that scores 40 points, it's really hard to pass up. So yeah, I'm definitely interested to hear what he was thinking there. And yeah, just having
someday when he's 21, we'll explain what clubbers means. No, I think this was, I mean, an incredible showing, and this is certainly the level of play you would expect in adult tournaments in higher
Totally,
divisions.
yeah.
They both played incredibly well. They both knew, even with misspelling votaries, just knowing the word votaries.
Yeah, and undulate as well. Bingo with 2 U's is not easy to see.
Absolutely. Knowing to hook the P and the X with WAP was an incredible play that we saw. And that was back when she had no vowels. Cherish really did an amazing job. So in just a few moments, folks, we're going to be getting an interview with Dathan, the winner of this game. What a close game it was. I love these nail biters. And I love when it comes down to end strategy here. I don't know. I think those nail biter games are much more rewarding, although tough to lose.
Yeah, God, it can be so painful. I feel for Cherish right now. Obviously, like she didn't have great chances going into that end game, regardless of what she played. I think her best play, according to our Quackle analyst, was QIS winning 3 out of 8, but that's so hard to figure out in the moment without the help of a tool like Quackle.
And without knowing what's in the bag.
Yeah.
If she had picked a vowel, that game was hers. So, or was at least more likely to be hers.
With one draw. But yeah, crazy game. I'm so happy we got to see a good game here. Yeah, so QIS did win with 3 out of 8 of those draws.
And someone is making the note that you can look at overall how were the tiles in the game, but so much of the time it comes down to the tiles in the end game.
Right.
The fact that she wasn't able to pick those vowels for a few racks, she had kind of tough situations.
Mm-hmm.
Can be so tough. You're slugging it out this whole game, and then to have it come down.
Yeah,
to the end.
it was not looking good. Yeah, those constant draws. I forgot about that. She had a few turns with Grunt and with the Q on her rack with Gem.
Right,
and that can just make it so hard. You know, it limits your options so much, and you're scoring 12 points in a close game as opposed to like racking up 20, 30, 40.
This is also just me playing. What if? But if she had played off the QIS earlier.
Right.
Back when there were more tiles in the bag. Could that have changed the game? I don't know if she was trying to wait for a bigger play or wait till the end so that her opponent was less likely to be able to use it. But of course, he was a bit of luck in having that eye, but he played it so well in playing IRED. That was a great find.
Yeah.
That was the winning move right there.
Yeah, that was awesome. Great find. It was his best endgame play, so didn't even sacrifice any spread with it. So respect for that.
Absolutely. In just a moment, we're going to be getting you that interview with Nitz. She does such a great job. So stick around for those. And we're going to be covering more Scrabble all day. If you're just joining us, we are at the Planet Word Museum here in DC for the North American School Scrabble Championships in 2023. And we've seen some incredible play already.
Yeah, and I think the next couple rounds should be fun. We're going to be switching over to the championship division. So you'll be hearing from Hannah and Jackson Smiley, the former School Scrabble champion from 2011. So I'm sure he'll have some good insights to add about those games. And yeah, just to clarify for anyone who doesn't know, the championship division is for people in grades, I believe 3 through 8 now is the age limit. And they play in teams of 2, so it's 2v2. So you get to see this really cool, like teamwork, partnership aspect that you don't get in a typical Scrabble tournament.
There's a great clip. My brother and I used to be partners, and we were both these cherubic little redheads. Awesome. We'll finish that story later because we've got a great interview for you right now, coming to you live from School Scrabble Nationals.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to what I'm calling the Winner's Corner. I'm here with Dathan Lang, and we just watched what I promised, and so did Will, to be a very close game. Well, you'll note that a game with a 500-point spread is not very usual. It's not something that we see a lot. A close game, on the other hand, is something that is a lot more common, and you saw that come all the way down to the last few moves with Dathan and Cherish just battling it out. So, Dathan, how are you feeling? How was the game?
Personally, I felt extremely stressed. Overall, after I drew my blank for alcoves, I was feeling pretty confident. I figured that Cherish would actually draw the cue some play, but I did not notice that she was going to play Quaid Eyes. But overall, after checking all the tiles and counting, I figured that I would have a decent chance of winning.
Yeah, I mean, that was a fantastic move for you to do. Any seasoned Scrabble player knows that by the end of the game, you need to have your tile tracking in order so that you can know how your opponent is going to go out. And you saw that play. You saw that you had to block the A in Cadiz. Is that right?
Yeah.
And what was going through your head when you got those tiles and you knew, this is it. I'm going to...
I was feeling pretty ecstatic, but I didn't want to show too much emotion, so...
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you need to keep a poker face when you're playing these games. You don't want your opponent to know if you have that blank. And this was a pretty evenly matched game. We had Cherish with her blank. We had you with your blank, finding alcoves. And what do you think was a key moment for you in the game?
I think a key moment specifically was after I drew alcoves and a couple moves later, I actually drew the J, and I saw a couple of plays. And I realized that no matter what, overall though, I figured that Cherish would actually have a lot of vowels in her rack, and as such, I wouldn't be too much concerned, especially since I figured she would also have a Q since I didn't draw it both times. But
yeah, that's really good strategizing, trying to think about, hey, what's left in the bag? What could I possibly draw? And then the range of what your opponent could have. That is really impressive strategic thinking. So this just tells me that you've been, doing your studying, you've been doing your practicing. So how have you been training for this tournament?
So currently I actually go on Aerolith, and essentially I will go through the top 1,000 seven-letter words, and whenever I didn't know a word, I would just write it down in my notebook. And over a couple of weeks, I would basically review myself on those and also some vowel drops.
Wow, there you go, folks. I've said it before and I'll say it again. These kids are really out there. They are studying, they have their heads down, and you better watch out because they will be coming for you next. Thank you so much for your time, Nathan. And really, yeah, congratulations. We can't wait to see you up on the championship board again. I have with me here Will Anderson. And yes, it's back to us. We're going to do our little talky talk so that you can ask us all the questions and roast Will as much as you want. Please don't roast me. That is against the rules.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be able to say something roast-worthy here. That was a great interview, of course, with Dathan. No surprise to hear him talking about Aerolith, which is, of course, for those that have never heard that word before, that is not only a Scrabble acceptable word, I think a kind of a mineral or a rock, but also a wonderful website where you can practice your anagramming. Not surprising to hear one of our top players, Dathan Lang, name dropping that website. As you said, Nitz, couldn't have said it better myself. A lot of practice, energy, discipline goes into learning that dictionary. But then you see that once you get over the board, Dathan and Cherish both playing beautifully in that game.
I mean, what a close game. I mean, we couldn't have called it, but really, wow. It's like we predicted that it was going to be a nail biter all the way to the end. I mean, they were tied at a point, and it could have gone either way. With Cherish, doing her tracking, being meticulous, knowing that her opponent couldn't play anything to the triple by putting the Q over there. Yeah, that takes a lot of strategizing, a lot of thinking, a few moves ahead. And that was, what a game.
Yeah, incredibly impressive, as you said yourself. And as I heard our commentators say, we knew we were in for closer games after that round one matchup, and we surely got one here. I can see you guys in the chat right now. Comment from Mopo 2017. If your phony gets challenged, can you just declare April Fools? I don't know, Nitz. What do you think?
Well, maybe for living room Scrabble, I might be a little, hesitant to do so at a tournament. But yeah, living room Scrabble, very much so. I also see a comment here from WTF who says the key moment was having Scrabble blocked, and I agree. Oh wow, that would have been such a play. We would have shut the tournament down just for that. I think the first prize would have just gone to Dathan.
Yeah, that would have been a viral moment to end all viral moments here if the word Scrabble was played here at the North American School Scrabble Championship. Close but no cigar. I mean, I feel like all of us were kind of sweating that and hoping that we get that moment. You never know. Maybe that's coming in one of the next 8 games here. Doesn't seem very likely, but Scrabble, a lot of crazy stuff happens. So you guys in the chat, feel free to ask us any questions that you would like. We're going to just keep you guys company a few more minutes. And then I think what we're going to do potentially is take the shortest possible break to figure out what our round 3 matchup is going to be. This time it is coming from the challenge division, the younger set of players, and those players play in pairs knits. What is that, how is that going to look? What are the differences that we're going to see there?
So with the championship division, it really could be either way because you have to work with your partner over time to really create that synergy, to have that mind jinx moment where you know that you can't speak too loudly or your opponents are going to hear. One of them has to do all the tracking. One of them has to do, like messing with the tiles. And it really is trusting your partner. And it adds an entirely new dimension to the game, something that we don't even think about when we're at our multi-day tournaments. Here, you have to think about, hey, is my partner going to be able to help me find a word here? Is my partner going to, do the tracking correctly? And really having that moment of trust, synergy, and not just a regimen of studying, but a regimen of working together as a pair.
Amazing points, Nits. I always feel like when I'm playing a collaborative game of Scrabble, it takes longer because you're debating plays, whereas normally if you're playing as a singleton player by yourself, you can just make that choice and slap it down. But usually there are a lot of nuances on any given turn to debate, consider. Your partner might think of something that you didn't. So time management could be an issue. Then again, we also see the younger players, at least the less experienced players, are apt to play lightning fast. I feel like we've seen that too, where if you do see one of these top players from the championship division taking their time and thinking deeply, watch out. Those are kids who know what they're doing, and that can often be the telltale sign that this is a team to watch in those younger championship division matches.
Oh, 100%. As soon as you know that, they've settled down, they're being patient about finding a move, something that we saw with Dathan and Cherish just now, that patience to know that you've tracked everything correctly, that your opponent can't possibly come back with a Q play on the triple. That's the kind of forward thinking that you've developed as players as you get that experience. And I think that is such an interesting and amazing point. And also, having a partner means having double the vision of the board. Means if you miss something on one side of the board, there's a possibility that your opponent, your partner has found the other side, and you've found that one hotspot for your ex that you just didn't see, but thank God your partner did so. And that could be a eureka moment for themselves.
Yeah, what a lifesaver. Sometimes I feel like during my games, I wish I had a teammate to be like, am I crazy here? Am I missing something? And God, it would be nice. Seeing a few more comments in the chat. Jesse Matthews says, who's there to say William to you? And unfortunately, it's not Jesse. Thank you very much for the shout out there. Uncommon Nigerian says, in Team Scrabble, we occasionally play over here in Nigeria. Talking is not allowed. You can only gesture. That is really interesting. I think that, and typically I will, see whispers, right? You'll see kids kind of whispering. It's sort of up to each team to communicate in a way that does not give any unnecessary information to your opponent. So maybe you'll see, if you see teams that are, not doing that whispering, which are pointing to areas of the board, right? You could see somebody pointing at an area of the board and maybe give their opponent an idea and say, oh, what are they pointing at? Oh, right. That word takes a hook I wasn't thinking of. So, all different stuff to watch out for. And we are going to, at some point very soon, cut back to that action. Again, it will be Hannah Lieberman. And joining her for the action from the championship division will be former North American School Scrabble champion Jackson Smiley. So, we'll see what insight he will have on the pairs play that we're likely to see.
We do have a fantastic set of streamers for this because all these commentators have been in the situation. They know exactly what it's like. They've told you with their stories, and you're going to hear this again, their strategies, how they've persevered, and how, you get to the point where they are at. With Chloe, winning her first multi-day tournament, Jackson being, the absolute ridiculous, dominant player in Canada and North America now. And Hannah just like shooting through the ratings. I mean, these are very impressive commentators. You look at them and they know what they're doing. So they can really tell you, how one develops their Scrabble playing after all these years. And, to the point of when you're talking to your partner, you can also, well, you don't hear this from me, but you can also, trick your opponent. You can point, the words that don't take hooks, and you can be like, like we could do, just messing with them. Nobody said you can't do that. It's mean spirited, so don't do it. But you totally can. You didn't hear it from me, folks. I did not come up with that idea.
It is that gray area, Nits, between things that are permitted by the rules and things that are, the sportsmanship and things like that. That there is nothing against the rules about, pointing at an area of the board and trying to give the impression to your opponent that you're gunning for that spot. Not necessarily what I expect to see from our players. Almost always we see incredible sportsmanship from all of the players at this event, at least in the time that I've been associated with it. But there is always that gray area. So we'll see what ends up happening. You never know. It's going to be fascinating to see what matchup we get. And of course, this was just the third game of the day. We're going to have 10 total games coming at you. We're not even at the halfway point here. And we just hope you guys will stick around a little bit further. Any other things that you are looking for out of the next game, Nits, before maybe we take that quick break and figure out what is the matchup that's coming at you guys?
Well, Scrabble in the chat just mentioned that there was a team that would speak to each other in French. Now that I'm looking forward to. If I can hear someone go, ha ha, baguette, omelette du fromage, I want that. I want to hear that coming from the championship play. Yeah, that table, yeah. That is ingenious.
Yeah,
that is
incredible.
ingenious.
So we'll be on the lookout. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll be on the lookout for English, French, any language that the players are looking to use. And I think what we'll do for now is don't go anywhere. We're going to take that quick break and be back in something like 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more, with that round 3 matchup coming at you guys from Washington, D.C., the Planet Word Museum, the 2023 North American School Scrabble Championship.
And we are back. Welcome, folks, back to the North American School Scrabble Championship. I am still Hannah Lieberman, but now I am joined by the very awesome, very good at Scrabble, Jackson Smiley. Jackson, you are yourself a former School Scrabble champion. Is that correct?
Yes, a mere 12 years ago, I won this tournament, and I am very happy to be back in the studio now doing some commentary for everyone. And we're really excited to start this third round match.
Absolutely. So we've got now a championship match, meaning we've got these younger players and they are paired up. They're going to be playing together. Let's see what we've got today. We've got Milo and Nathan versus Eric and Raphael. And in case you need any more information about them, I do happen to know their favorite ice cream flavors. Let's see what we've got here. Eric and Nathan, opposing teams here, both picked vanilla. So star-crossed Scrabble players. And Raphael said Neapolitan, great choice. Milo said Rocky Road. I mean, we're already seeing some excellent decision-making from these players. I think it's safe to say.
Especially Rocky Road. That's what I would say.
Especially Rocky Road. And Neapolitan. I like to divvy it up, diversify my portfolio, as it were. So talk to us a little bit about the difference with the high school division and having those partners. What kind of dynamic does that change?
Yeah, so since they're playing on teams of 2 in the championship division, it really changes the decision making. You can have your partner to rely on in case you're not sure. You just let them make the decision.
Right.
So it really helps. And then sometimes you think you found a great word. Meanwhile, your partner over there found an even better word, makes the decision for you.
I think you're giving us the best case scenario here.
Ideal, yeah. Sometimes you can sit there arguing for a few minutes, but most of the time
particularly when you play with your sibling. Not saying I know that for personal experience. To finish my story from earlier, there's a great clip on the Today Show where you just see my brother say to me, "No, Hannah, that's stupid." And then it cut to commercial. And I was like, that was my national TV debut.
Oh, yeah.
My brother's great. Awesome. We are about to see the start of this game. So again, we are seeing Milo and Nathan versus Eric and Raphael. Very excited to see this go down.
No, I know. I just didn't remember who was on there. You just can't move the racks.
And it looks like Milo and Nathan to go first.
Yep, they are picking their tiles.
Quick handshake.
Oh, we love to see the sportsmanship. Absolutely terrific.
And it looks like Eric and Raphael have a tie already. We've seen a couple ties so far in the championship division, whereas Milo and Nathan are undefeated. So we'll see if Eric and Raphael can send them their first loss.
Now, it is a short tournament, but the tournament is still young. It is anyone's game, anyone's tournament.
Exactly. With one loss, you're still okay.
Absolutely. And with half a loss, you're still
even
okay.
Half a loss, you're even more okay. So both teams are in a great position.
Milo and Nathan, they had such a good word. They had AGUE, and then I'm not sure if they knew that word. That's fine. They have a few more vowels than they probably would like.
It looks like they found
AGUE. Good for them.
It may be tough to know. It's not a normal looking word. So they may not be sure it's a word, but it's a great play. It gets rid of a bunch of vowels. It's exactly what they want to do in this kind of situation.
Exactly. And the other thing they're going to want to do is play it so that they're not putting a vowel above that double word, and they knew exactly to do that. We're seeing a really high level of strategy for these super young players.
And the question in my mind is, AGUE actually does take a D at the end. And so they could put their D there. I'm wondering if they're saving it for next turn. It's also a bit of a weirder word, so you never know.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't even think of that.
But it may come up later. We'll see. Whereas Eric and Raphael now have a pretty nice rack, pretty nice balance of vowels and consonants.
Absolutely, they do. Now, the tough thing with this is that they weren't given ample spots for high-scoring plays with Milo and Nathan's opening play here. It looks like they're trying to maybe get rid of the K for the sake of drawing a bingo. It would leave them with good bingo tiles, but we don't want to see them fall into that trap of what's called fishing, where they're just playing off one tile at the time in the hopes of picking something that could give them a bingo. So we'll see what they do here. Maybe they're playing paint.
Maybe think about paint as well, which is a nice play. It actually fits right underneath the AGU of egg. With a nice overlapping play, and
but
they're going for paint instead, which really opens the board, and that's a nice long word. And they're deciding to clear out their rack instead,
right?
Instead
and
of
you
fishing.
know what? When it's this early in the game, you've got all that good stuff still in the bag. Statistically, it kind of makes sense to try and pick some of that good stuff. On the other hand, it did open things up. It's okay to open things up at the beginning of a game.
And we see they've drawn the X, so I think they're probably excited to see that tile out of the bag.
Right. I think it basically confirms for them that they're going to be going for these shorter, high-scoring words rather than a bingo, though. They had great bingo-friendly letters. Again, a bingo is when you play all 7 letters and you get 50 extra points. Now, it looks like Milo and Nathan are and, either of those would be pretty solid leads. It looks like they're definitely looking to get rid of the B and one of those double T's.
Yeah, so they're probably thinking about what tiles do I want to keep for next turn, and definitely the S on their rack is something
Right, and
definitely
I would
want to
say
be
if I
keeping.
had my druthers, I'd keep an E, but
Ideally, but I don't know if they can get rid of the B while getting rid of the O instead of the E as well.
right.
That looks like a
Is
solid
BOTT
play.
a word? Did I make that up?
BOTT is a word.
They could have stacked it that way. It would have been,
Few options.
slightly fewer points, but I kind of like that leave better. But their leave is still excellent. And, because E is such a useful tile, there are 12 of them. It's the most common letter in the bag. So their
Thankfully.
chances of picking another one are pretty high.
Exactly. And now, Eric and Raphael, they did draw a kind of clunkier rack. All these vowels, they probably don't love seeing the IIU. And now the question is, are they thinking about whether to get rid of those tiles, or are they going to spend their X now, cash it in early, and try to draw something better next turn?
And the other thing to consider here is, do they have an option for getting rid of those tiles on the board? To me,
I
it
don't
looks
even
like
see a
it's
place for EX.
more of, right, so that'll help keep away that temptation. But
exactly.
it looks like trading might be a good option for them. I'm just not seeing a place to really get rid of, more than 1 or 2 of those tiles you want to get rid of.
You really want to be looking to get rid of the I and the U here. Like, ideally, you get rid of both of them. At least one of them would be okay. This is a pretty tough turn. It is tempting to cash your X as soon as you get it, try to hit as big of a score you can. But really, I think the great decision here would be to hang on to it, or hang on to some of your better letters here for next turn. So
Rob in the
what they're
Twitch
looking
here,
for.
he's saying, "Oh my gosh, they're so little," which is. It's true. I remember at school Scrabble thinking I was all that. But for these little minds, they really do know their stuff and know their strategy. It's not just about word knowledge, these games. It's also about spatially being aware of the board, playing defensively as well as playing just to score points, and trying to think a few steps ahead. So here the question is going to be, do they know to maybe wait it out? I think we can look at the Quackle. I think the better option might be trading in. They could play okay with Cab and Ope, but I don't think that's, the leave is.
Yeah, let's see. And so they're dropping Kit for 7.
So the reason I wouldn't necessarily play this is that it left them with not great tiles. And the fact that it's only 7 points tells me that it might be worth it just to trade. I don't know if it's worth the 7 points to keep those. Now they have 3 I's and a U.
Yeah.
That's going to need
that
a
is a
trade.
pretty unfortunate draw. Obviously, that's the last tile you want to draw. A third eye. It could have been something better, but it's true. You open the door to drawing something like that. So now I wonder if next turn maybe they'll be like, you know what, enough of this. It's time to trade in tiles. We'll see. Unless maybe they get an X spot. They might wait it out. And it looks like Milo and Nathan are going with Often, which is a great rack clearing play, as we call it. Kind
Absolutely.
of keeps another pretty decent leave.
And
MOS.
also knowing that they have that S, they've now
really smart.
created a hook for themselves of soften. And what's really nice about it is the S doesn't need to be the final letter. They've kind of set up a nice situation for themselves. I think Eric and Raphael are tempted.
And I've been seeing this strategy on the floor today of kids, lining up their
Right, they
tiles
stack
just
them.
so that the opponent can't see what
It's
they're
Scrabble
putting down.
and it's Jenga.
Yeah. So they got to kind of test the waters. How does this play look? How does this make me feel before they actually commit to playing it?
It does look like they are going to play off their X.
Okay, so they are cashing their X finally.
Right. I might have waited and just traded just because you can say, hey, I'm going to score a lot of points, but even if you drew 2 blanks, that's not a great leave to have on your rack.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely have to spend at least a turn coming back from this rack. and now this is kind of, the nail in the coffin with this rack.
Right.
3 I's, 2 U's.
An old McDonald's situation.
Exactly, yeah, but not even the vowels you want. But they've set up the I's and the U's on that side of the rack, so it makes me think they know what their problem tiles are going forward.
Absolutely. Also, the other problem with EX is it sets up some pretty nice plays for Milo and Nathan. It's hard to avoid setting things up when you're at the start of the tournament. They are seeing that OXY. I could either even see leaving that for the chance of building something with ABY down under debt.
Milo and Nathan have a great rack, not only in general, but also a great rack for this board in particular.
Absolutely.
Yeah, between the ABY hook, OXO is also a word, and Oxy, and also these hooks for X's you're talking about. They have
Right.
Hex and Rex.
I could even see just playing something like MHO, like just something to hook up, get those points. The other benefit of playing OXO or OXY is it doesn't take an S. So it's not like you're setting up all these lanes for your opponent to bingo. And then it leaves that Y, which can be really useful for something like ABY. But I also see the benefit of getting rid of a Y. They're hard to bingo with. Not that they look like they're in much of a position to bingo.
And so it looks like they're looking at Rosie making ABY right now, which is another really nice overlapping play underneath debt, which would be 38 points, which is a really solid play because it keeps these really potent scoring tiles, H, Z, and M. And I think that kind of guarantees them at least 30 points next turn.
Absolutely. The only thing I would say about that is the chance of their opponent using the AB is less than the chance of their opponent using that EX. Little do they know Eric and Raphael are almost guaranteed to trade. But again, a great play. Really nice of them to, I don't think ABY is a word you come across in everyday life very much. So they definitely know their threes. They know that PE takes an S. These kids are for sure studying.
And now the question is, will Eric and Raphael finally trade in their tiles? They've been spending a few turns scoring points while, keeping some I's and U's, and I think they've finally hit the standstill there.
Right.
We'll see. They could work through this rack if they really wanted to.
It would take quite a few turns, though. So you have to get to the point where you're doing this cost-benefit analysis. Oh, it looks like they're maybe challenging. Maybe they weren't sure of ABY.
Probably ABY. It looks like the weirdest word of the bunch.
Right. Or maybe they weren't sure if PE takes an S. Not all two-letter E words. NE doesn't take an S.
But this challenge will come back unsuccessful, so Milo and Nathan will get their points for Rosie. It is a valid word.
And with Eric and Raphael, you've just lost the opportunity to trade. Now when you have to trade, you're going to lose another turn. Which is it's going to allow Milo and Nathan to build up a pretty sizable lead.
Yeah, so we'll see what they draw, because this could definitely be a big turning point in this game for Milo and Nathan.
And exactly what Dustin Dude is saying in the chat is that now Eric and Raphael have to suffer with this rack one more time. And each of those times is a chance for a catch-up. Oh, looks like they're considering March with Rex, which is a really great nice play. They could also do Czar there, but the problem with Czar is you're not hitting that. You're not going to be hitting that double unless you hook it with ER. I personally think March would be a better play.
Yeah, March is pretty good. They also have the word cash, a very
true.
A newer word that is kind of one of these slang words that they added in, CAZH. So they could always put that as well. It looks like, they're pointing to the board. It looks like they're really considering Czar. And I wonder if maybe they're looking at the potent CH combo, which is a really great thing to keep for next turn.
Absolutely.
That might be why they're thinking
Czar
about that.
is not a bad play by any means.
Great play.
Oh, they see Mock as well.
So they're really weighing their options here. I think they have a really good rack.
I wonder if they maybe are so fixated on Hex that they haven't considered Rex.
Right, with March. That could fit there.
I think that might be what happened here. This is a little risky because they are putting that Z next to a double. They're opening up a triple.
But little do they know, I don't think Eric and Raphael actually have any plays there, if I'm not mistaken. They can't use the Z.
They're playing COD. Again, it's hard because at this point, I get the urge to score, but they are really not that behind. They are only one bingo behind, and now they're going to be stuck with these yucky letters yet again. They picked an R, which is great. They picked an E, which is a much friendlier vowel. I still think their best option, unless something opens up, is going to be to trade.
And we see the first blank drawn for Milo and Nathan. I'm sure they're happy to see that. It looks like they have another M besides the tiles we see. And I don't think there's any bingo here, but they're close.
What about
Chem? Yeah, almost.
But they do have some good options still. If they can do something. with the Z, that could be really cool. They might have to use a blank for that, though.
I know they set up the word MACH last turn.
Right.
I think they would still have that word here, and it plays really nicely next to Tsar.
Right.
So that's one pretty good option that clears out their rack, and I think they'd be really likely to bingo next turn.
It clears out their rack, and it's a pretty solid scoring play. It's going to get in the high 20s, I would think.
And the best part is it's hard to see right now, but if they do play MACH next to Tsar, they would set up their M next turn
Absolutely.
with HM. So you can start thinking about, a few turns ahead. I'm sure that's what they're trying to figure out right now.
It not only sets up their M, but knowing that they have an M and a blank, their opponent, if they wanted to bingo there, would have to use a vowel to start, and that would be pretty tricky.
That might be hard. So looking at a few different plays that get rid of an M, which is great. Undoubling the M's is always good. You don't want to keep duplicate tiles for next turn.
I think maybe a little better would be if they knew the word MM, which it's hard to think of, or HM. You're not used to these two-letter words. I maybe would have saved a vowel, but it looks like it paid off for them. They have gorgeous letters now.
Yeah, that 2-vowel draw is huge there.
That was incredibly helpful.
And we're back to Eric and Raphael, still dealing with these eyes, and it looks like they're trading in tiles. And I think that's a great decision
awesome.
at
They're
this
just
point.
keeping the E, which I think is a very solid choice. Okay, they are ripe with vowels still. Let's see what else they get. Already, this is so much more playable.
Already, this is better. Yeah, we'll take a few extra vowels as long as they're,
not
E's.
using eyes.
And they actually drew a great rack.
Both of the teams right now have very bingo-friendly letters, but not obvious bingos.
Exactly, yeah. It can be hard to find an actual word in here, but either way, even if they don't have a 7-letter word next turn, I'm sure Eric and Raphael will be happy that they have a nice balance of vowels and consonants, and they can probably get back to scoring, which is what they really want to be doing. It's also nice that Eric and Raph kept the E last turn, because that is really helpful for playing through the Z in SAR. I was wondering if they're thinking about that, because a lot of words will end in, IZE or AZE, and that lets them play along with OE for a pretty good score next turn if they have anything.
Absolutely. Looks like they're looking to play Echo, perhaps off of ER?
Maybe OPS? I know they're looking. Let's see, maybe with
Okay,
NE?
they're going to play it off of the NE.
I wonder, because I saw them see the apes hook last turn. I know they were pointing at it. They may just be kind of spacing on it right now.
I think this might be a hard word for them to know, but CHEZ could have been a good play here.
O'Shea as well.
It doesn't open up anything. Oh, and they're just playing off an O pretty quickly.
Eric and Raph have been hitting us with some really quick plays as well.
Absolutely.
They're putting some
and that
serious
is
time pressure
a difference we're going to see with the championship versus the high school division is maybe a little more patience. It can be hard though when you're so excited about, that's the perfect play. It did pay off. They got great. They drew
an S, which is great. OH is a pretty good fish. I think they saw the potent combination.
Absolutely.
EELINR, and they know they might draw bingo a lot. And it looks like they did. We'll see if they find something. The S was a great draw though.
Absolutely.
For Eric and Raph.
All right, so Milo and Nathan, they need to get rid of some of these consonants, ideally the double A. VAW is a great way to do that. And I think this was a good play. It doesn't set up terribly much, and it gets rid of what they need to get rid of.
Yeah, it's a fantastic play. And you can tell they're working slowly towards this bingo. Last turn, they kept MN blank, and now they're adding an A into the mix, which I think a really helpful vowel to throw in there.
Yes, they have a great leave now. It didn't pay off last time with picking those double A's, so I maybe would have considered a play other than Echo. I would have just taken a little more time on that one. But again, so far, it is working for them. They still have a pretty sizable lead up by a bingo.
And both teams are playing pretty quickly. Even though Eric and Raphael have been putting more time pressure on Milo and Nathan still have quite a lot of time left. It looks like there might be a challenge. The clock is paused. A team might be prepared to challenge right now.
Now, something we can see, when I talk about this cost-benefit analysis, if you're unsure of a word, the instinct to challenge, it can feel great. But, looks like there may be a score verification. That makes a lot more sense. Because I was going to say, in these smaller plays, not worth it necessarily to challenge.
Exactly. A 3-letter word as well. It made it
right.
You may
With
just want to give
Rosie,
them
it makes
benefit
a
of the
little
doubt.
more sense if you're really not sure of ABY because you're going to, it's a lot of points.
Mm-hmm.
But with a little play, not always worth it. We have some talk in the chat about the bingos that Eric and Raphael might have. Relines, I think, is probably the easiest one to find, but if you didn't study it, you have to think of line as a verb, and
Exactly.
that's kind of tricky
Then
to do.
relines to line again, you might not even be sure of it.
Right. The other one in there, I think, is Liairns, which RC Spence has said in the chat, but that is an even trickier one to find.
And yeah, that's the thing. I know a lot of kids do some studying, and then you start to recognize these racks. And once you study this exact rack, you can immediately know, oh, there's 2 bingos in there, and you know what they are. But if you haven't studied, it's a lot trickier. You have to kind of start from square one, start from scratch, and try to just find a word.
Oh, I do a lot of justifying words in my head where I have to make sure something actually makes sense. I say it like relines. I'm relining this. I have to use it in a sentence.
Exactly.
Oh man, they picked another AW.
Another AW.
Statistically, they should do the lottery after this.
But at least they got the S instead of the V, so definite progress there.
Absolutely.
3, 4, 12.
And we see them plopping their S down. The S they just drew last turn, and it looks like an immediate challenge from Milo and Nathan.
Right.
They do have the phony 2 SA.
They maybe meant to play the L.
They maybe that may have just balked on SA, but it looks like Milo and Nathan are pretty confident that that's coming off the board.
And we saw that in Eric and Raphael's the look gestures. Of shock, they knew what they did.
Yeah.
The other thing is, even if it were good, I don't know that that's the play I would make. I would want to save my S. S's are so valuable because they're so easy to hook. So when you come up with a bingo, you not only need to have that bingo, you need to have a place to play it, and having the S is really valuable on that.
Especially with echoes, the echo spot, any bingo you draw is pretty much going to play there.
Absolutely.
And Milo and Nathan are getting rid of that W.
Absolutely
looks like a great
perfect play in my mind, because those are the 2 tiles I would want to get rid of. It does open up another potential bingo lane, but I think that's a perfectly reasonable play to make.
Yeah.
And wow, those A's, they are just
getting the A's. But they are slowly building their rack better each time.
Right, and they're also slowly building their lead. Eric and Raphael have now lost 2 turns. That's a lot of points.
Yeah, those are some big swings for sure, especially with the exchange in there as well.
Absolutely.
So they've had to spend 3 turns scoring 0 points, which will be hard to come back from. But 124 points behind, it's still pretty early. There's a lot of things that can happen on this board. A lot of tiles left in
the bag. Still anyone's game. I would say the best option here would be, if you don't know those bingos, if you can't think of an 8-letter word, to maybe do what you were thinking last time, but with a different letter.
Maybe, yeah, because they could put their L where they put their S. That would be fine.
Or play lane or something like that.
The other idea is maybe playing through the Z, because as you're talking before, you can really get caught fishing one tile, hoping for the draw that you want. They could also just say ZEE, play size. There's a few words through the Z that would score quite well, kind of get them, over 100 points and back in the game a bit.
Over 100 points total, right?
100 points total, not for the
word.
Yeah,
I think ZEE could be a good option. Not that many E's have been played. The chance of drawing another one is it's not like they're using the rest of the E's for the game. It leaves them with pretty good tiles. Size is also a great option. Let's see. They are going to play Doer, it looks like. I think I would rather play DOLE. I'd rather keep my R than an L, but either of those are good options. At this point, they just want to open up the board, get some new tiles going.
Yeah. Because their ticket back into the game is going to be with a bingo. They want to use all 7 tiles, get that 50-point bonus, because it would be hard to kind of get back in this game bit by bit. It'd be a lot easier by getting a 170-point play, an 80-point play, and then suddenly they're back in.
Now, we have a few people in the chat asking, hypothetically, even if you know SA is not a word, should you have left that play for them using up?
Because they're spending an S.
Right. The other problem, though, is do they have 2 S's? And
that's the thing. I would assume they're getting rid of a double S most of the time, but not always.
This is one of the other things you lose when you get challenged, is not only are you losing that turn, but now your opponent knows at least some of your letters.
Yeah, they get some information. I would still definitely challenge off SA.
Absolutely.
Because also it means that they didn't have a bingo that turn. They could always draw into another bingo.
Right.
It's almost always right to challenge. There's a few cases where, you can let it go.
It looks like Milo and Nathan are going with the same strategy of just getting rid of the double A and getting rid of the consonant.
It's going to come soon. They're going to bingo.
Eventually. Oh, they're looking at VAM, which is not a word. They could do Van.
They might be thinking, you know, after the challenge of ABY,
Maybe
they
their
could play
opponents are a
Phony
little
3.
intimidated. That's absolutely true.
And I know that's a strategy that some of these teams will employ, you know, whether to phony. Oftentimes you're just not sure and you say, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try this word I'm not sure of and hope they don't challenge. But then sometimes the occasional team will actually intentionally phony, which it is allowed.
Right. The onus is on the other team to know if something is not a word. They are going to go with fa.
Keeping the same really potent AMNS blank, making a
At
really
some
nice lane for
point,
themselves. I think
If they
this
pick
is going to be
another
the
A,
time.
I'm going to lose it. No.
Yeah, just don't pick an A and they should be okay. And no Q either.
Right. And Q, we're having a similar thing here with Eric and Raphael picking that J.
Yeah, that's
Where
not
it's
what
like
you
power
want.
tiles like the J are great in theory, but if they're blocking you from bingoing, they're actually pretty costly.
Yeah. And unfortunately, they can't use their J with that spot that they just opened. Like under Fa, they could hook their N there for Fan, but unfortunately, they don't have an A for Jeans or anything. It's kind of hard for them to actually make a really high-scoring word there.
They could play Jins, but it would use up a lot of their good tiles. Again, at this point, though, they're down by over 100. Might be worth it. All right, and we can also see Milo and Nathan working on finding a bingo. They might have given up a little bit. They're looking at maybe to play mud somewhere. With Eric and Raphael, I'd say, yeah, if they can get rid of that JI, great. But it also might be tricky to find a good spot for that. You know, one other option is they could play JINS and socks.
That's a really nice score, actually.
But little do they know, Milo and Nathan have a D that does go in front of
Right.
JINS. It is risky.
Maybe Milo and Nathan are kind of looking in the future already with mud. They know
Exactly.
they can play there.
Maybe they sense
Maybe
it.
they're hoping for Jins to come down.
But Jins would be a solid number of points.
And they're picking up the L. I'm wondering where
Maybe they're
gonna put
playing
that.
Lex like they
And
perhaps
they might be
initially
doing
meant
that
to.
play. They're using more of their time here, and this is a pretty difficult rack, I must say. There's no
Absolutely.
standout play. There's no
They still
clear
have the option of
word.
size, of course.
They could still do size.
I could see if you didn't see Jins doing something like LAIN with Lex. I definitely want to get rid of at least one. Oh, they could play LI with locks. That's even better.
Yeah.
That could be a great play just to get rid of one of those double I's. And the J and the L don't necessarily go together super well.
And so right now, when they're trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to get back in this game, they may be thinking instead of trying to bingo, they may want to keep their J and try to hit a big play. So we may see them keep the J for next turn and be hoping for a play like Jeans with Fan, which they're really close to right now.
Right.
And it looks like they're playing a really nice play of LI and Locks,
That's a
which I
great
think does
play.
that.
It also racks up some points. It's not like a little throwaway play.
I think it's a nice play, and then with an A draw, they can get back with Jeans. There's probably a few other nice J
Absolutely.
plays.
Oh, they have an ING now. Unfortunately, they don't. Well, okay, they saw hinges.
They saw hinges, which is pretty nice. Hinge does play hooking Fa with the G. And now back to Milo and Nathan. We'll see if they do another run at trying to find a bingo here.
Absolutely. Someone in the Twitch stream here has suggested that maybe they're keeping their tiles separate just to not give away the fact that they have a bingo.
Yeah, is that something you ever done over the board?
You know, I don't push all my tiles together,
Yeah.
so I think if I did do that, people would know something is up.
Yeah, one turn you finally push them
Right.
together, and then they know you have a bingo.
Exactly. But I'm also not someone who studies enough to alphabetize her letters, or I feel like I'm here being the amateur perspective. I just leave my tiles however they are. Maybe they are looking to utilize that FA as well, or they're doing something off of the OH.
They're looking for Dumb and DOH, which is once again keeping a pretty nice lead. They're really close to bingoing every single turn. They're probably really wanting an E, is my guess. They're waiting for one of those 12 E's to come back to them. Oh, they're going to take it off.
But they're not sure about. I think maybe they're not sure about DUM.
They may not be sure of it. They may just, want to do their due diligence and try to find as many plays as they can. It looks like they've committed to DUM for 13 points. And again, this is a really great leave they're keeping. ANS blank will draw
Absolutely
bingo
beautiful.
quite often.
They've also blocked now Eric and Raphael from doing something with that triple letter.
It's true. Like their play of Hinge that they had set up before no longer plays.
Yep. Oh, they think that JIU is a word. It's actually JEU. Totally get that mistake.
And once again, Milo and Nathan do not draw an E. But again, they have a pretty good rack for scoring. They're definitely making do without bingoing. You know, they're scoring
Absolutely.
enough to keep their 100-point lead going.
It's like we were talking about earlier with fishing. Bingoing isn't always the best thing to wait for.
It looks like Eric and Raphael were considering ERI there. And, you know, this is where really you can see how, you know, sometimes studying can really pay off just with the confidence to know which three-letter words are in the dictionary, which are not. Because, you know, there's a lot of weird three-letter words out there.
Absolutely.
But it can be tough. You're spending all your time trying to guess on words, which one's a word, which is not.
Yeah.
If you know cold, it's going to be a lot easier to
Absolutely.
make your decisions.
I will say someone in the chat recommended playing Haj and Hex. Using that EX up in the top right of the board. That's certainly an option. It can be really hard to divorce yourself from the idea of getting good points for a power tile like a J, but that is not always, you know, the most strategic play. It would leave them with ING, ES, which is just fabulous.
And we'll see if they are going back to, oh, it looks like the E they're putting there. And this is a strategy we see with a lot of kids, kind of testing with the board, putting some tiles on there.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's easier to visualize what it's going to look like when you can actually see it. Very curious what they're going to do here.
Because they still have hinges set up. So hinges would play with DUMS. I think that is a word.
Doesn't seem particularly worth
but
it to me. I would say at this point, they need to score some points. If they need to use their S to get points with the J, it might be worth it. Something like Gins and Skit off of that K up there. It's not terribly many points, but... Or Gins and Fan, like we were saying last time.
Yeah.
Or Jigs.
There's a few words there. It seems like they are trying to get rid of their J, which I think is a pretty good idea. And they're going to go with Ding instead. Once again, keeping their J.
You know, the one downside of this, ING, is such a beautiful suffix to have.
It is, yeah.
Instead of finding a 7-letter word, you just have to find a 4-letter verb, really.
Yeah. So yeah, Ding is tough because it seems like they found the ING and it seems like they saw the potency of that, but I think I would have preferred keeping that for next turn. It's, you know, it's sometimes hard to realize, hey, actually ING would work better with my next rack than my current rack.
And again, it's really hard to accept the fact that sometimes power tiles are a curse and not a blessing, and to get rid of it.
And Viney comes down instantly with from Milo and Nathan.
Now, Viney is a beautiful play because it blocks the triple lane under the V. V and C are those two letters that don't have any two-letter words. It does, you know, potentially set up some things with, am I misspelling this? VINYL?
Yeah, no, that's the right spelling. Yeah, it's a pretty hard hook to see. You know, when you see Viney, you're not thinking, hey, I can put a letter after Viney, but they actually have the L from Eric and Raphael. They could play with vinyl. It looks like that
Their play is perfectly good as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, they could have done something like hail.
Yeah, and again, that's a hook that you have to miss before you see it the next time. I had to miss vinyl a few times, and finally, all right, I'm never missing vinyl again. I feel like I only know vinyl
because of doing the crossword. It's always in the crossword, and I always have to think, is it Y, I, or Y?
Vinley vinyl.
Yeah. Oh, double blanks with Milo and Nathan. Now, this is another blessing curse situation. It's one where you can't complain about it because you can't complain about having two blanks, but it is a little harder to visualize when you have to designate what both of those blanks are going to be on your rack. I would probably start by taking UN at the beginning, seeing what words I have there.
Yeah. And it looks like they found something pretty fast, which is impressive because, yeah, usually with two blanks, you sit there for 5 minutes and it's pretty hard to find anything.
They knew they maybe needed to start with an S, which is helpful because it is going to limit their options a bit. Sinuate is in there.
And that's a great find. And it really shows they've been studying. Sinuate is one of these weird words that sounds crazy, but it's a word that you will study
when you're first starting out Scrabble.
Words.
You get this little, what they call the cheat sheet. It has the 2-letter words and the 3-letter words, and then it has these common bingos, and that first common bingo set is Tisane, Tisane plus a blank. Tisane plus a U is Sinuate and Aunties, if I'm not mistaken.
And now, finally, Eric and Raphael keeping this J after a few turns. It looks like it may finally pay its dividends, but they will have to
Oh, looks like we have another
Okay,
score
maybe a score.
reconciliation.
But yeah, the J
they'll
does
that
have
option.
a lot of good options here through that blank T. It can be hard to consider playing through a blank, but with that blank T insinuate, they could be using their J on the triple word scored for close to 60 points.
And the other thing that's great here is that they're not using their only S in playing Jets. They get, they will have a good leave too. Looks like they're just double checking the score of that play. It's not a particularly high scoring bingo, but who cares? 50 points is 50 points.
Yeah, it puts them up 160, 170 points, and that is pretty
Even if
tough
Eric
to
and
come back from.
Raphael bingo, or what we call a binglet, when they play their fewer than 7 tiles but get more than 50 points, there's still going to be another bingo behind, and the board is, not going to get any more open.
Yeah, and we're seeing a whole big space of that board that's pretty closed off right now on the left side right now of the board. No one's really able to play there. You can't really put anything in front
Looks
of
like they're
Matt.
considering a challenge. They're all standing up,
And
which
it
I
looks like
get
they're
if you don't
challenging
know. On the other hand, it's not a very high scoring bingo. They have great tiles, so they're probably going to
They
bingo
probably have something, right?
soon. And now you don't get to use that triple that would catch you up. It's really hard because, it's hard to distinguish between I don't want it to be good and I know it's not good.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, maybe they didn't take that extra minute to look, hey, what did this give back to me? Hey, actually, you know what? I have Jets.
You know
Maybe
what?
it was worth
Even if it
leaving
is
that one
good,
on.
even if it's not good, I should leave it for the sake of Jets. Now, not only do they not get to play Jets, but Milo and Nathan are going to get to use that spot.
Yeah, and I think it's a pretty big spot they'll block. I don't see any other great scoring spot on the board, so I think their eyes will go immediately there. And
not just for
probably
their
take it
own
out.
score, but to block it from their opponents. We see a little bit in the body language of Eric and Raphael. They're maybe feeling a little out of it now.
Yeah, I think they know the game is going to be pretty hard to come back from at this point.
It was also just a really, hard challenge to lose. That's the other thing you have to think about with challenges. If I lose this challenge, will I have any chance? Or
Right.
do I have any chance if the word is good? Looks like they're going for the obvious here of G-O-D or G-E-D, I guess.
There is a spread cap on this
Right. I
round
believe
as well.
it's
Is it
150
150?
points.
So yeah, maybe from Eric and Raphael's perspective, they're thinking, okay, maybe we can't win, but we can try to get within that 150 spread cap. Try to lower the
Absolutely.
spread.
That does make sense. And that spread cap is very helpful for, keeping someone in the tournament. So they did play GED, which is perfect, for living room players who maybe aren't experienced in tournaments. They think it's important to learn all the big words, which we definitely saw with Sinuate, but just as important, knowing all your 2-letter and 3-letter words helps you stack up letters until you end up getting a pretty significant number of points.
And same with challenges. We see the teams here in the championship division that know their 2s and 3s solid can really win a lot of challenges.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes they'll get challenged, and in turn they can call words off really consistently. As we saw this game with A, B, Y, and SA, those are 2 really big deciding factors in this game of what the turning points were. And I think Milo and Nathan's previous study has really paid off in this game.
Absolutely, it has. Also, the benefits of having a partner.
For sure. As long as one of them
I'll take the bingos,
knows.
you take the 3s.
Yeah, when you were in school Scrabble, did you kind of divvy up who studied what?
I had a big, I cast a wide net for who my partners were. I didn't always have the same partner.
I see.
So it just depends on with whom I was playing. Oh, they're seeing a great idea to hook that T with pest. Is that
Yeah,
another
that's a great
E
choice.
that
It looks
they
like they're
have?
playing Deet, I want to say.
Oh, it's a P though.
Oh, P, I see.
Which I don't think
Pete is
a
one of these,
word.
yeah, like normal. You're like Pete, yeah, sure, that's a word, and then you
It's
ask yourself,
pronounceable, which you can.
actually, it's not a word in the end.
Is prosy a word? Did I make that up?
Prosy is a word, and I wonder if they're gonna consider it. And it looks like they're finally seeing the Opes hook from before.
That's excellent. That's really great thinking. The only thing with this is their opponents previously had no place to bingo. Now they might be able to find something.
But maybe they're saying, we're up by 200.
Right.
They're probably
At this point,
feeling
we can take
confident.
that
They can
risk.
open the board. They don't mind. And that's pretty interesting because now we'll kind of see that side of the board that was previously kind of closed, nowhere else to play. Now maybe Eric and Raphael can kind of extend
Right.
off of repo, and
They do have
They can flower
realizes.
off the-
Alex Dings puts that in the chat. Oh, another
we're seeing
challenge.
another challenge.
Now
And
at
maybe
this
both
point,
words they're challenging.
right, at this point, I understand challenging if you're not sure about either of those words.
Yeah.
You're like, what are the odds both are good? On the other hand, if it's just like with Jets, if they had taken a second to think, hey, we can use this, we can bingo off of this, you have to think not just of what your opponent is scoring, but what they're giving you. We see a little smile on, not sure if that's Milo or Nathan, but a little smile of excitement.
It's tough as well because on the one hand, you want to keep your opponents honest. You don't want to let them think that you'll take any word they want.
Right.
But then at the same time, after you've lost a couple challenges,
do you maybe
you
trust
probably
what
want to
they
trust
say?
them a bit more, right?
On the
a
other
four-letter
hand,
word.
if Eric and Raphael don't see realizes, which again, they could have taken a little time to maybe find, if they don't see any other bingos other than sailors, maybe they think, well, they'll open something for us. They'll play off of that and we'll finally get to play our bingo. But that would be pretty tough for that to be opened up off of.
Yeah, and look, if I'm Eric and Raphael right here, they've seen their bingo of sailors in their rack, which is a great find. The problem is there's nowhere to play it. What I would do is probably try a phony here. I don't know about you. The word mat looks like it could take an S in front of it. I might try smat. Like a short form for smattering, a smat of something. It is not, in fact, a word. But what I'm saying is, in their position, I might try it. There's
Absolutely.
really nothing to lose.
And the other thing is, with Scrabble, you have so many words where I'm like, I don't even know how to say this. Smat is very pronounceable.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good sign of it being a word, right?
Right.
Even though it's not in this case. So we'll see what they do, because I'm sure, they see sailors, and they're looking at the board right now trying to figure out what else can we play, because sailors doesn't seem to fit anywhere.
It looks like they might be doing littler just for the sake of blocking down the board. It does work for blocking something like realize. The question is, will it open anything else up for an 8-letter bingo?
Yeah.
I think at this point, Milo and Nathan have to know that Eric and Raphael are trying for a bingo because they've seen them fishing off some of their letters.
Exactly.
Looks like they might be considering playing off an S. Let's see how many tiles we have left in the bag. Where am I seeing that? 12 unseen tiles.
12 unseen tiles.
Still a queue out there.
Okay, so we have 5 tiles in the bag now after littler. And so Eric and Raphael might only have one more opportunity, and it looks like they're trying. They might be trying Sliddler.
I think that's a little less plausible than Smat.
What's cool, though, is that they're not playing sailors. They're kind of making it, not so many points that they're hoping, just for 30, 40 points, they're not going to challenge it. That's a funny phony, but Milo and Nathan are having none of it. They're going to call it off the board, which is the correct challenge. Sliddler is not a word. But that's a great try. I wish that was a word.
It's like when you say like tis or something. If you're saying it is littler.
Oh, Sliddler.
Sliddler.
Yeah. That's a great phony. At this point, maybe they're just having fun with it.
Right. And when you get
like
to that
cool
150 cap, they're probably going to have trouble getting below the 150 cap. You just have fun. You try things. You throw spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks.
But it's cool. Yeah, it is cool to me they didn't play sailors. I wonder, that is a strategy I've used before. When playing a phony, I'm going to play the 40-point phony instead of the 60-point phony.
Yeah,
maybe they won't be as
I don't know if there was
challenge.
that much going through it, but they're getting their steps in this game, that's for sure.
Yeah, we've seen quite a few challenges, in fact.
Absolutely, we have. But I think that's great that these players aren't afraid to challenge. Sometimes the problem is these opponents, they can intimidate you, and you feel like, I don't want to challenge because I've already lost a challenge. But
yeah, exactly.
I love that all of these players we've seen so far in all of the games have been brave enough to really challenge. I wonder what they're going to do here. I think knowing that there are so few tiles in the bag, do you wait and hope for maybe bingoing yourself, or is it best to just shut down as many bingo lanes as possible? Mm-hmm. Knowing that my opponent has SAIL, I already know 4 of their letters are pretty great. I think I would be looking to shut down the board.
Yeah, and they could try to play something next to littler to shut it down.
Right,
even something like, bot. That does give the B back in the lane, and they're looking at the word robot. I'm not sure where that's playing right now.
Yeah. I think we see this is another big difference with the younger players, is that they kind of find the word on their rack and then look for a spot, as opposed to these high school players who are kind of assessing the board and then seeing how their rack fits in with it. That's a big difference.
Yeah, and there's, really kind of have to do both. There's no one right answer for what you have to do first. You want to really do both at the same time. Find the words, find the spots on the board. And it looks like, looking at OER somewhere, at this point in the game, they might also just be, looking for any reasonable play. They don't need to worry too much about blocking.
Right, they're pretty much sealed in here.
They just kind of want to coast.
Looks like they are looking at bot, which I
Looking
think
at
is a
bot.
perfectly reasonable play.
Super good. It also keeps 2 tiles in the bag. You usually don't want to empty the bags. If you're the first one to empty the bag, your opponent knows what your letters are if they've been tracking.
Right. And also, if you know your opponent has very bingo-friendly tiles and you empty the bag, if they pick that Q, which it's likely they will. Oh, but they also have a U.
Oh, yeah, we're still waiting on the Q, aren't we?
We are still waiting on the Q. Ooh, they did not pick the Q. Now we know that Eric and Raphael will get it. Right?
Looks
The
like
Q's
they,
been
yeah,
played.
looks like they left the Q in the bag, actually.
Wowzers. So, my point being, if you empty the bag and you have that Q on your rack, not only does your opponent bingo, but they're getting at least 20 points off of you.
Yeah. And, you know, if Eric and Raphael are tracking, we see the tiles, unseen tiles in the top right corner, EEIINOQRU. You'd be expecting to draw some vowels next turn, right? You see a lot of vowels. You're like, okay, I'm probably going to draw a vowel. In fact, though, the 2 tiles in the bag are NQ. Obviously, Eric and Raphael can't know that, but, you know, they'll be in for a surprise.
I think if
on
I'm
what
at
they
this
draw.
point, I think it's going to be so hard for me to bingo that I might just play something like Braze or Braille.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess Braille's,
Baylors, you know,
yeah.
just score some points.
Just to get some points going.
Yeah.
What I wouldn't do is play 3 tiles. I think they maybe didn't check the bag beforehand, which I totally get. You can forget to do that. That's the worst feeling when you play
I
off
know,
trying to
right?
bingo, setting up a spot for yourself, but only 2 tiles left. You can't bingo with 6 letters.
Yeah, because lair was a pretty cool idea because it actually sets up their leave very well. They kept LESS, which is a great
Right.
suffix, and that would actually fit alongside making lairs.
Now they are stuck with that Q. Wow, great word. Milo and Nathan also on that cheat sheet maybe saw those common vowel dumps when you're stuck with a bunch of vowels. OURIE is one of my favorites. And they were like, you know what? There's a spot, we're taking it. Because at this point, they are going to be able to go out next turn, very likely.
Yeah, with
Or
IE,
at least
I
in
think.
2 turns.
Yeah, you would think they'd be able to go out,
Ire.
but they have Ire through
Right.
the R and Auri that they set up for themselves. It may be blocked if Eric and Raphael play QIS through there.
Right.
And it's cool in this game seeing the words that are kind of the normal words, like often that you see, and then there's the more studying words like Auri and AGUE, all these
Insinuate
vowel dumps.
even.
Insinuate as well, definitely like a studying kind of word. It really shows that this team has made some preparations.
Oh, they might be. Yeah.
And it looks like they're considering QIS, which is a great play. You definitely don't want to be
Absolutely
stuck with the
great play.
Q.
And they're going to get one more turn to play.
It looks like they will, because yeah,
I don't know that
IE
they
does
were
not
tracking.
go
I don't
out.
think they have been. Oh, it looks like they are tracking, but I don't know how much that went into their decision making. But if they look and see that their opponents just have IE left, they could take that time and say, oh, and another benefit of playing here is we'll get one more shot. Unless I'm missing, which is very possible.
Yeah, I don't see any place for IE, so it looks like they'll have to go one at a time. And it might let Eric and Raphael play out with ELNS. That should go somewhere as well, right? They do have
Yeah,
lanes
lanes,
through
yeah.
the A and Awa. That might be their only spot as well.
So Milo and Nathan are going to have to just play one tile. I think Quackling, their best option is ABYE, which if they know ABY, maybe they know it. But it doesn't particularly matter. The spread is locked in for them. At this point, they just need to play off those tiles. A great game we've seen from both partners. With Eric and Raphael, I think they lost a lot of ground with losing some of those challenges.
Exactly, and they kind of got off to a bit of a rough start as well with drawing all those vowels over and over.
Absolutely.
I think they kind of didn't have as much momentum to start as Milo and Nathan did.
Right. So that can be a little demoralizing, but
It can be tough, being
still
down
a
the
great
entire game.
And Milo and Nathan have played very well. They have found some words that are certainly words they know from studying, which is really encouraging to see. Looks like they're just trying to find a high-scoring place for that S, since they don't.
That's usually a good
See
idea.
the
S usually
outplay?
can go somewhere. It looks like they're going with paints, which is a really nice place for the S. Probably the best
Absolutely.
place on the board for the S here.
I think it might make more sense to just go out at this point. You have to do the analysis of how many points will my opponent get from my rack and from playing one more turn.
And Milo and Nathan will go with R, E, and ES for 8 points, securing their
Perfect.
third straight win. That puts them in a great position.
Wowzers,
Milo and
undefeated.
Nathan, Milo I know came second last year. he made the finals, and so I'm sure he's really happy to be 3-0 as well to start. I'm sure he's hoping to make the finals again this year to get another crack at that win.
Absolutely. I think we saw some amazing play and some amazing strategy of blocking some of those bingo lanes. You know, it can be hard when you also have bingo friendly letters to not be greedy, but get excited about the possibility of scoring some points and open up those lanes for yourself. But you have to know, you know what? I have a sizable lead. Better to shut it down than to open it up for my opponent.
It's true. Yeah, they were very patient, weren't they? Just keeping their good lead, waiting until the hit, and then the hit was Sinuate, and that kind of sealed the deal.
You'll have a slittler chance of losing.
A slittler chance. Yeah, that was a great phony. I kind of wish it stayed. Maybe you throw them a bone, give them Slittler. Yeah, great played game.
And now we see they're squaring up the tiles. That's something we do to make sure all the tiles are still there before each game. No, this was great, and it is very exciting for Milo and Nathan that they're doing so well. If they keep this up, I have a feeling we'll be seeing them again. But tournament is still young. It is still anyone's tournament. Eric and Raphael did a great job. And, I think one of the hardest things when you're young is just taking the time to not, taking the time to see all of your options. You get this idea in your head and you kind of want to commit to it. And it can be hard, especially with a partner, when you're like, what about this? To really take the time, breathe, think things through, and maybe see some better options.
Exactly. And so we're going to break the kids are going to break for lunch. So after 3 games. And so we have a bit of a break coming with some lunchtime content as well.
Absolutely. Don't leave us because we have some amazing interviews coming up. Wow. I'm rocking like a whole headphones mullet right now. So that's entertaining. No, we have some great stuff coming up. More great interviews with some of the adults who are making this possible. And we're going to have more content for you. I think we're also going to have an interview potentially with the winners of this game. And after lunch, we're going to have more games analyzed for you. Love seeing all of this in the Twitch stream. Love seeing everyone playing along and coming up with ideas.
Yeah, and hopefully we see some more cool words as well. Some more cool phonies as well. I'm always down to see these creative ideas like Slittler. I'll be happy to see what other crazy words people can come up with.
Absolutely. Was that with you? I was talking about slidier.
Slidier, no.
Oh, in a tournament when I was just determined that was a word. I was like, I can use that in a sentence.
Slidier makes sense to me. Makes a bit more sense in Slittler, actually. I might even say.
It's true. If you can pronounce it, though.
Exactly. It's always worth a try.
A big example with my mom was playing in a tournament. She played Bozo. This was right when she started. I come from a whole family of Scrabblers, for those who don't know. And her opponent was Cornelia Guest. She's a big school Scrabble person. And she played R-E in front of it, Rebozo.
Rebozo, yeah.
Which is a kind of hat. But my mom was like, you cannot Bozo someone again. Scrabbler, one who Scrabbles. That's exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, bozo is not even a verb, right? So,
right. So she's
it makes sense to me, yeah.
The best of this is my mom was playing my brother, and he played a B in US. Okay, we are going to our interview now.
Hi, everyone. I'm here in the winner's corner at the 2023 North American School Scrabble Championship with Nathan and Milo, who just won our first live game of the championship division. This is the 3rd game for the day, and we just watched Nathan and Milo go live and do something absolutely amazing. In a partnered game of Scrabble, they just blew their game out of the water. So guys, tell me, what does it take to be such a great team? How do you get here?
Well, first you gotta decide what roles each person's playing, and you also want to make sure we're coordinated and we agree on every play that we make.
I like that. Yeah.
You gotta work together, and you have to think alike, kind of.
Yeah. Do you guys think that you think alike?
Yeah, sometimes.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Well, what about at home? How do you play Scrabble? Do you play it by yourself or do you play it in teams?
I play against my mom.
Yeah, no, I play against my parents as well.
And are you guys excited to one day graduate to the point where you can just play on your own, or do you prefer to just be partners?
I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, me too.
So, what do you like best about Scrabble? What really makes this game something worth coming back to for another tournament?
I think it's like the satisfaction when you get a bingo. Like it kind of feels great when you see that and then you find the spot and then they don't play there. That's the best part of the game to me.
I love that. That's a fantastic answer. What about you, Nathan?
I like the feeling when I win a challenge.
Yeah, you guys did win a few challenges this time, huh? Well, we've heard that quite a bit from our players about that exhilaration of getting that word. So, how did it feel when you had those 2 blanks in your rack, knowing, oh my God, we're so close to bingos, we're so close to bingos? How'd that feel?
It was also very satisfying. We knew we had tons of bingos and tons of spots. Well, not very many, but enough. And Sinuate was just like the first option we saw. Played it there, worked out.
So, Nathan, how do you feel about getting those 2 blanks?
I felt like really good. Like when I drew when he drew the blank, I was like, if we don't have a bingo, then like I am going to explode.
That's a really good way of putting it. I've definitely been in that place. And Cinemate, as our, seasoned players would know, is one of those higher probability bingos. And that must mean that you guys are doing your studying. How is that going? How do you study?
I study with Aerolith often, and I play the hardest spot in Moogles.io to like learn words that it plays.
What about you, Nathan?
I look at the cheat sheet.
The cheat sheet is always a great place to go. And Milo here mentioned Woogles, which is a website that Scrabble players use to play against automated bots and also to play puzzles or sorts of other games. Scrabble is a huge, part of the online world now. So did you guys play a lot of that during the pandemic?
I played, yeah, that's when I first did a few tournaments online. I had one before that, and then I had 2 online tournaments on ISC and then Woogles. Woogles is better. But yeah, go ahead.
So I play Woogles against the bot a lot, and sometimes I play on ISC. Once I had a tournament, but I've only had 1 tournament online. So.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, there you have it, folks. We have our champions here with us, and they have told us all of their tips and tricks. I hope you guys have your ears wide open because you're going to have to deal with these people when they graduate all the way to the high school level. Thank you so much for your time, you guys, and I can't wait to see you back on the championship table anytime soon. Yeah. All right, you guys, that was Milo and Nathan from the championship division, and we just watched a fantastic game. Don't go anywhere because we do have a special little treat for you. For the lunchtime show, we are bringing you Will Anderson going up against all of these kids, sometimes maybe even parents, and they are going to do their best to race him to 100 points. What do you think? Are they going to win, or is Will Anderson going to dominate everyone? I think we're going to see a few kids who are just going to, show him where they're at and show him exactly why they shouldn't be taken for granted. I'll see you guys at the lunchtime show. This was Nits Shakti, and thank you for watching the 2023 North American School Scrabble Championship.